She had 72 hours to change everything. 72 hours before the rent was due, before the landlord made good on his threats, before the stack of bills on her kitchen counter turned from red warnings into final notices. Sophia Chen had learned to count time in shifts and tips, in subway tokens and dollar bills folded carefully into her apron pocket. At 26 years old, she understood that survival was not dramatic. It was quiet. It was waking at 5:30 every morning to the sound of her phone alarm, the screen cracked at the corner but still working. It was making instant coffee because the good kind cost $3 more. It was choosing between new sketch pencils or eating lunch. But survival was also something else. It was the way morning light fell across her small apartment in East Harlem, touching the watercolors her mother had painted years ago. It was the careful way Sophia arranged her space, keeping everything clean even when the radiator clanged and the windows rattled in their frames. It was dignity. Her mother Maria had taught her that poverty is not who you are, mija. It is just where you are right now. And right now Sophia was managing. Barely, but managing. She stood in her tiny kitchen that Friday morning, the early light making everything look softer than it was. The apartment was small, but it was hers. Well, hers and Rachel's. Her roommate worked night shifts at the hospital and was asleep on the futon in the corner, her dark hair spilling across the pillow. Sophia moved quietly, not wanting to wake her. Rachel had already done so much, charging her less than half the rent because she knew Sophia was struggling. Pride was expensive, her mother used to say. Sophia was learning the truth of that every single day. On the wall above this small breakfast table hung her mother's paintings. Watercolors of flowers, soft and fading now, but still beautiful. Maria Chen had been an art teacher before the cancer came. Before the hospital bills had piled up faster than Sophia could count. Before Sophia had learned that in America, sometimes you chose between medicine and rent, between living and living with dignity. Her mother had chosen dignity. She had worked until she physically could not stand, teaching children to see beauty in the world even as her own world was shrinking to the size of a hospital room. Sophia touched the frame of her favorite painting, a cluster of white roses her mother had painted the spring before she died. The paper was yellowing at the edges, but the roses were still luminous, still somehow alive. Next to it was a photograph. Maria Chen at 42, her black hair pulled back, her smile wide and genuine. In the photo, she was standing in front of a classroom, surrounded by children holding up their artwork. She looked happy. She looked whole. That photo had been taken 6 months before the diagnosis. 3 years had passed since her mother's death, and Sophia still felt the absence like a physical weight. She felt it every morning when she woke up. She felt it every time she picked up her sketchbook. She felt it every time someone asked about her family, and she had to explain that she was alone. Well, not completely alone. She had Rachel. She had Henry Chen, her boss at the diner, a distant uncle who had given her a job when she desperately needed one. She had her art, though calling it that felt presumptuous. She had her sketches, her careful observations of the city, her attempts to do what her mother had done, to see beauty in ordinary things. Sophia looked at the clock. 6:15, time to go. She grabbed her coat from the hook by the door, the same worn navy peacoat she had been wearing for 4 years. One button was missing. She had been meaning to sew it back on for months. Her sketchbook was already in her bag, the leather cover soft from constant handling. It had been her mother's, a gift from Sophia's father before he left when Sophia was 8 years old. Inside were hundreds of drawings, layers of graphite and ink, faces and places and moments captured and held. The subway ride to Midtown took 40 minutes. Sophia used the time to sketch. There was something about the subway, the way it pressed people together, that made faces interesting. The tired construction worker with paint on his boots, the young mother with a sleeping baby strapped to her chest, the businessman with expensive shoes and exhausted eyes. Everyone had a story. Everyone deserved to be seen. Her mother had taught her that too. Metro Diner sat on 10th Avenue, a 24-hour place with chipped Formica tables and coffee that tasted like it had been sitting too long. but the regulars loved it. They loved Henry Chen, who ran the place with quiet efficiency and remembered everyone's order. They loved the way the eggs were always cooked right and the bacon was always crispy. They loved that it was cheap and filling and open when everything else was closed. Sophia had been working there for 2 years, ever since her mother died and the medical bills came due. Henry had hired her without asking too many questions. Family took care of family, even distant family. She arrived at 6:30, tied her apron, and stepped into the familiar rhythm of the morning rush. The diner smelled like coffee and bacon grease and toast. The griddle hissed. The coffee maker gurgled. Henry stood behind the counter, his reading glasses perched on his nose as he tallied receipts. He looked up when Sophia came in. "Good morning," he said. His voice was gentle, the way it always was with her. "You sleep okay?" "Fine," she lied. She had lain awake until 2 in the morning, calculating and recalculating her budget, trying to find money that was not there. Henry studied her face. He had a way of seeing through her careful composure. "You let me know if you need anything," he said. "I'm okay," she said. "I promise." The regulars started arriving. Mr. Johnson, 78, retired postal worker, ordered the same thing every day. 2 eggs over easy, wheat toast, coffee black. Mrs. Patterson, 62, nurse at Mount Sinai, always asked about Sophia's drawings. "Are you still sketching, honey? You are going to be famous someday. I just know it." The construction crew from the site 3 blocks down, 6 men who ate like they had not seen food in days, laughing and ribbing each other in Spanish and English. Sophia moved between tables with practiced ease. She knew how to carry 3 plates without dropping them. She knew how to remember orders without writing them down. She knew how to smile even when her feet hurt and her back ached, and all she wanted was to sit down. This was survival too. This was showing up. This was doing the work even when the work felt endless. During a slow moment around 9, Sophia slipped into a booth by the window and pulled out her sketchbook. She had 15 minutes before the next rush. Her pencil moved quickly, capturing the face of the man at the counter, the way his shoulders curved forward, the weariness etched into the lines around his mouth. She was not trying to make him look sad. She was trying to make him look true. Her mother had always said that truth was more important than beauty, though sometimes truth was its own kind of beauty. "That is good work," Henry said, appearing beside her with a fresh pot of coffee. "Your mother would be proud." Sophia felt the familiar tightness in her chest. "Mama always said talent does not pay rent, Mr. Chen." Henry poured himself a cup and sat down across from her. She was wrong about that. Talent is the only thing worth having. Everything else you can lose. Talent stays. Sophia wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that the hours she spent drawing were not wasted, that the dreams she carried were not foolish. But the stack of bills on her counter said otherwise. The eviction notice that would come in 72 hours if she could not find the money said otherwise. She worked until 3, then caught the subway home. $73 in tips, tucked carefully into her wallet. Better than yesterday. Not enough. Never quite enough. She got off at 116th Street and walked the 3 blocks to her building, past the bodega where Mrs. Lopez always greeted her, past the community garden where she volunteered on Sundays, past the kids playing basketball on the cracked courts. This was her neighborhood. These were her people. She belonged here even if the rent kept climbing and the landlord kept threatening. Rachel was awake when Sophia got home, making scrambled eggs in her scrubs. She had the next 2 days off and was planning to sleep for approximately 16 hours straight. "How was work?" she asked. "Same," Sophia said. She dropped her bag by the door and collapsed onto the futon. "Tell me something good. Tell me you won the lottery." Rachel laughed. "I wish. But I did make extra pasta last night. It is in the fridge." They ate together, sitting cross-legged on the floor because the apartment was too small for a proper table. Rachel talked about the hospital, about the difficult patients and the kind ones, about the doctor who was definitely flirting with her, but she was not sure if she should flirt back. Sophia listened and laughed and felt grateful. Rachel was a good friend, the best friend. The kind of friend who asked for less rent than she deserved and never made Sophia feel small for needing help. After dinner, Sophia opened her sketchbook again. She was working on a series she called Faces of My City, portraits of working people. the subway conductor, the street vendor, the cleaning woman at the hospital. People who were seen but not really seen, if that made sense. Her mother would have understood. She had spent her whole life teaching children to see each other, to recognize the worth in every person, regardless of what they looked like or where they came from. Sophia posted one of her drawings on Instagram that evening. A portrait of Mrs. Patterson from the diner, her face tired but kind. She added a caption, "Every person carries stories we will never know. Every face deserves to be remembered." She had 892 followers, mostly other artists and people from her neighborhood. The drawing got 47 likes. It was not fame. It was not money. But it was something. It was connection. She fell asleep that night thinking about her mother's last words. "Don't let anyone make you small, mija. Don't ever forget that you matter." Sophia had promised. She had promised her mother she would keep drawing, keep seeing beauty, keep believing that art was not a luxury but a necessity. Some days it was easy to keep that promise. Other days, like today, it felt impossible. But she would try. She always tried. The next morning was Saturday, and Sophia worked a double shift. 6 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon, then 5 until 8:30 at night. By the time she left the diner, her feet were screaming and her back felt like it might never straighten again. She had made good tips, though. $127. She counted it 3 times, hardly daring to believe it. Maybe she would make rent after all. Maybe survival was not about grand gestures, but about these small victories, these moments when you counted your tips and realized you might make it one more week. The rain had started while she was inside, a soft drizzle that made the city lights blur and shimmer. Sophia did not have an umbrella. She pulled her coat tighter and walked quickly toward the subway, her phone pressed to her ear. Rachel answered on the third ring. "I'm heading home," Sophia said. "Do you want me to pick up food?" "I'm cooking," Rachel said. "Just get here safe." Sophia smiled. Rachel was always cooking. It was her way of taking care of people, of making a small apartment feel like home. "I'll be there in 40 minutes. She hung up and looked for a taxi. The subway would be faster, but she was so tired, and the thought of standing in a crowded train car for 40 minutes made her want to cry. A taxi would eat into her tips, but just this once, maybe she could justify it. Just this once, she could choose comfort over practicality. The line of yellow cabs stretched down the block, their lights glowing in the rain. But there, at the curb just ahead, sat a black town car with its door slightly open. Sophia did not think twice. She had ordered an Uber earlier for a friend and assumed this must be it, running late. She pulled the door open and slid into the back seat, her coat dripping water onto the leather. "East Harlem," she said breathlessly. "116th and Lexington. I'm so sorry I'm late." The man in the driver's seat turned around slowly. For a moment, neither of them spoke. He was younger than she expected, maybe early 30s, with dark hair and eyes that were startling in their intensity. He was wearing a suit, the kind of suit that looked expensive, even though Sophia did not know anything about expensive suits. His tie was loosened and his collar was unbuttoned, like he had been somewhere formal and was only now allowing himself to breathe. "East Harlem," he repeated. His voice was deep and careful. Sophia realized her mistake a second too late. This was not her Uber. This was not a taxi. This was someone's private car, and she had just climbed into it like an idiot. "Oh, God," she said. "I'm so sorry. I thought you were my ride. I'll get out." But the man did not tell her to get out. He looked at her for a long moment, taking in her damp hair and worn coat, the way she clutched her sketchbook like it was something precious. He saw something in her face that made him pause. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was hope. Maybe it was the unguarded honesty in her eyes. "It's all right," he said finally. "East Harlem. I can take you." Sophia should have refused. She should have climbed back out into the rain and found her actual Uber, or taken the subway like she always did. But there was something in his voice, something kind and safe, that made her stay. "Are you sure?" she asked. "I don't want to take you out of your way." He shifted the car into gear. The engine purred, so quiet compared to the rattle of most taxis. "I'm not in a hurry," he said. "And you look like you could use a ride." Sophia settled back into the leather seat, feeling the warmth from the heater wash over her. "Thank you," she said. "Really, This is incredibly kind. They pulled away from the curb and into the Friday night traffic. The city moved past the windows, lights smearing in the rain. For a few minutes, neither of them spoke. Sophia was suddenly aware of how she must look, soaked and rumpled in her cheap coat, sitting in this expensive car. The leather smelled new. Everything was clean and perfect, and she felt like she was tracking dirt into a place where dirt did not belong. "I'm sorry," she said again. "I bet drivers hate long rides across town." He glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "I'm sure some do." "Well, I'll tip what I can." She opened her wallet, counting the bills she had worked so hard for. $70 should cover it, right? For this far? Something in his expression shifted. "Don't worry about it," he said quietly. "No, I insist. I pay my own way." She said it firmly, the way her mother had taught her. "Never let anyone make you feel like you owe them." The man nodded slowly, like he understood something about her from just those few words. "All right," he said. "We'll figure it out when we get there." Sophia relaxed a little. She looked out the window, watching the city pass by. The rain was falling harder now, drumming against the roof of the car. There was something peaceful about it, something that made her feel safe in this small enclosed space with a stranger. Maybe it was his voice. Maybe it was the fact that he had not told her to get out, had not made her feel foolish for her mistake. "You probably hear a million stories," she said after a while. "Everyone talking about their lives like you're their therapist." He smiled, just a little. "Not really. Most people don't talk. They're on their phones." "Oh," she felt herself blushing. "I'm probably bothering you then." "No." His eyes met hers in the mirror. "It's nice. Talking." There was something in the way he said it, something lonely, that made Sophia want to ask more. But instead she heard herself saying, "Mine's not very interesting. My life, I mean. I'm a waitress. 2 shifts a day, 6 days a week, rent's due, and I'm close but not quite there. Story as old as time, right?" He did not answer right away. When he spoke, his voice was softer. "What's in the sketchbook?" Sophia looked down. She had not realized she was still clutching it. "Oh, just drawings. It's silly." "Can I see?" She hesitated. She did not usually show people her work. It felt too personal, too revealing. But something about him made her want to share. She opened the sketchbook and leaned forward, holding it so he could see in the mirror at the next red light. Pencil sketches of diner customers, subway riders, street corners, faces and places and moments she had tried to capture. He studied the pages carefully, his expression serious. "These are beautiful," he said. "Really beautiful. You're an artist." Sophia felt her throat tighten. No one called her that. Artist. Like it was a real thing, not just a hobby or a dream, but an actual identity. "I'm a waitress who draws," she said. "There's a difference." "Is there?" He looked at her reflection in the mirror. "These drawings, they see people, really see them. That's what artists do." Sophia did not know what to say. She closed the sketchbook, blinking against the sudden sting in her eyes. "My mom used to say that," she said quietly. She was an art teacher. She said everyone deserves to be seen. "Was?" The word hung between them, gentle and careful. "She died 3 years ago. Cancer. We couldn't afford the treatment that might have saved her." Sophia did not know why she was telling him this. She did not talk about her mother with strangers, but the rain and the darkness and his kindness made it feel safe somehow. "I'm sorry," he said. And she could hear that he meant it. "My mother died 2 years ago." "Oh." Sophia felt the shared grief connect them, invisible but real. "I'm sorry too." They drove in silence for a while. It was not uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that felt full rather than empty. The kind of silence between people who understood something about each other without needing to explain. Sophia watched the city through the rain-streaked windows and felt, for the first time in weeks, like maybe she was not alone. "Your mother," he said after a while. "What was her name?" "Maria. Maria Chen. She sounds like she was an amazing person." She was. Sophia smiled despite the ache in her chest. She saw beauty in everything. Even when things were hard, even when we had nothing, she would find something beautiful and point it out. "Look, Mija, see how the light hits that building? See how that woman walks like she's dancing?" She taught me to see. "And now you draw what you see." "Yeah." Sophia looked at her sketchbook. I guess I'm trying to do what she did. Keep seeing, keep remembering that everyone matters. That's not silly, he said. That's important. They were getting close to her neighborhood now. Sophia recognized the landmarks, the bodega on the corner, the church with its faded mural. She felt a strange reluctance for the ride to end. This man, this stranger, had listened to her in a way most people did not. He had looked at her drawings like they mattered. He had not made her feel small. "This is me," she said as they pulled up to her building. The walk-up with the graffiti on the walls and the broken streetlight. It looked even shabbier next to the elegance of his car. He put the car in park and turned to look at her fully for the first time. She could see his face now, not just in the mirror but real and close. He had kind eyes, sad eyes, eyes that had seen loss, just like hers. "How much do I owe you?" she asked, pulling out her wallet. "Nothing," he said. "This ride is on me." "No, really, I insist." She held out $70. "Please, I need to pay my way." He looked at the money, then at her face. He seemed to understand something about her pride, about why this mattered. "All right," he said, "but only if you promise me something." "What?" "Don't stop drawing. Don't stop seeing. The world needs people like you." Sophia felt tears prick at her eyes. She did not trust herself to speak. She just nodded and put the money on the seat next to him. "Thank you," she managed finally. "For the ride, for listening. I didn't catch your name." He hesitated for just a second. "Mark," he said. "I'm Mark." Sophia Chen." She reached out her hand and he shook it, his grip warm and steady. "Thank you, Mark, for everything." She climbed out of the car and ran through the rain to her building entrance. At the door, she turned back. He was still there, watching to make sure she got inside safely. She waved, he waved back. Then she pushed through the door and climbed the 3 flights to her apartment, her heart beating faster than it should have been. Rachel was at the stove stirring pasta. "You're soaked," she said. "What happened?" "I got in the wrong car," Sophia said. She dropped her bag and collapsed onto the futon. And it was the strangest thing. Strange how? He was kind. Really kind. And he looked at my drawings like they actually mattered. Rachel raised her eyebrows. "He? A driver?" "Yeah." Sophia pulled off her wet coat. "His name is Mark. He wouldn't let me pay the full fare. Said the ride was on him because I let him see my art." Rachel turned around, wooden spoon in hand. "That's either really sweet or really creepy." "It was sweet," Sophia said firmly. "He wasn't creepy at all. He was just sad, I think. Lonely." "Well, you'll never see him again anyway, right?" "Right." Sophia pulled out her sketchbook and looked at the pages she had shown him. But even as she said it, she did not quite believe it. Something about that ride, about the way he had listened, felt significant, felt like it mattered. That night, Sophia could not sleep. She lay on the futon while Rachel snored softly on the bed, and she thought about the man in the expensive car, Mark. She thought about his kind eyes and the way he had looked at her drawings. She thought about how he had understood about her mother, about seeing beauty, about what it meant to keep creating even when it felt pointless. She reached for her sketchbook in the darkness and turned to a blank page. By the light of her phone, she began to draw, his eyes first, because those had stayed with her the most. Then the line of his jaw, the way he had turned to look at her. She drew from memory, trying to capture something she could not quite name. Loneliness, maybe, or hope, or the way 2 people could connect in the space of a car ride, in the rain, on a Friday night when both of them needed to be seen. She did not know that across town, Marcus Thorne sat in his penthouse apartment and could not sleep either. She did not know that he was looking at her Instagram account, scrolling through her drawings, reading her captions. She did not know that one caption in particular had caught his attention and would not let go. "My mom said art gives voice to the invisible. I'm still learning how to speak." She did not know that he had made a decision that would change both their lives, that he would go back to that diner, that he would see her again, that he was already planning how to do it without revealing who he really was, because for the first time in years, someone had looked at him and seen just a person. Not Marcus Thorne, CEO. Not Marcus Thorne, worth $800 million. Just Mark. Just a man who was lonely and sad and desperately hungry for something real. Sophia fell asleep with her sketchbook open on her chest, her pencil still in her hand. She dreamed of rain and car rides and kind strangers who saw beauty in her art. She dreamed of her mother, painting flowers in a sunlit classroom, turning to smile and say, "I'm proud of you, mija. Keep seeing, keep drawing, keep being brave." When she woke on Sunday morning, Rachel was already gone to her shift at the hospital. There was a note on the counter. "Made you coffee. Please eat something. Love you." Sophia smiled and picked up her phone. She had missed calls from an unknown number, but no voicemail. Probably a telemarketer. She deleted the notification and made herself toast with the last of the peanut butter. She had the day off, a rare luxury. She should have been looking for extra work, picking up gig shifts, doing anything to make more money before rent was due. But instead, she found herself getting dressed and walking the 3 blocks to the community garden. It was a small plot of land between 2 apartment buildings, fenced and filled with raised beds where neighbors grew vegetables and flowers. Sophia had been volunteering there for a year, ever since Mrs. Lopez had invited her. "Come help us, mija. Get your hands dirty. It's good for the soul." The garden was quiet that morning, just a few early volunteers pulling weeds and watering. Sophia grabbed gloves and a trowel and got to work on the tomato section. There was something meditative about gardening, about the simple, repetitive motion of digging and planting. It made her feel grounded. It made her feel connected to something larger than her own small struggles. She was deep in thought, pulling weeds, when a voice said, "Excuse me, is this where I sign up to volunteer?" Sophia looked up, shielding her eyes from the sun. Her heart stopped. It was him. Mark, standing at the garden gate in jeans and an old t-shirt, looking completely out of place and somehow perfectly right at the same time. "Mark," she said, standing up so fast she dropped her trowel. How did you?" He smiled, sheepish and nervous. "I remembered you mentioned volunteering at a community garden. There are only 3 in East Harlem. This was my second try." Sophia did not know whether to laugh or be concerned. "You tracked me down? I know how that sounds." He held up his hands. "I'm not a stalker, I promise. I wanted to see you again, to see if you were real." "Real?" "Most of my life is filled with people who want something from me," he said. "But you didn't want anything. You just wanted to talk, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about that." Sophia felt her heart do something complicated in her chest. She should probably be worried. She should probably tell him this was inappropriate. But all she felt was a strange kind of joy, like something impossible was happening, and she did not want to question it. "So you came to volunteer?" she asked. "If you'll have me," he said. "I'm not much of a gardener, but I can follow instructions." Sophia looked at him, this man in his expensive watch and designer jeans, holding a pair of garden gloves like he had no idea what to do with them. She thought about saying no. She thought about protecting herself from whatever this was. But then she thought about the ride in the rain, about how he had looked at her art, about how lonely his eyes had been. "Okay," she said. "Tomato section. We need to pull weeds and stake the tall ones." He smiled, and it transformed his whole face. "Yes, ma'am." They worked side by side for 2 hours. Sophia showed him how to identify weeds, how to pull them without disturbing the tomato roots, how to tie the growing plants to stakes so they would not collapse under their own weight. He listened carefully, asked questions, worked without complaint even when his hands got dirty and his back started to ache. The other volunteers watched with curiosity but did not pry. This was a neighborhood garden. Everyone was welcome. At noon, they broke for lunch. There was a food truck on the corner that made the best tacos in Manhattan. Sophia insisted on paying for her own. Mark did not argue. They sat on the curb, eating and watching the neighborhood move around them. "Can I ask you something?" Sophia said. "Anything. Why did you really come here?" Mark looked at his taco thinking, "Because in that car on Friday night," he said slowly, "I felt like a real person for the first time in years. Not someone's boss or someone's asset or someone's anything, just a guy giving a girl a ride. And I wanted to feel that again." Sophia understood that more than she could say. "I get it," she said. "Sometimes we put on so many costumes we forget what our real face looks like." He looked at her, really looked at her, and she saw something in his eyes that made her breath catch. "Exactly," he said. They finished their tacos in companionable silence. Then Mark said, "Can I see you again? Not just running into you. Actually see you? Like a date." Sophia felt panic and excitement war in her chest. I don't know anything about you, she said. You could be anyone. I could be, he agreed. But I'm not anyone dangerous. I'm just someone who wants to spend time with you. Who wants to hear more about your art and your life and what you see when you look at the world. Sophia thought about saying no. The smart thing, the safe thing, would be to say no. But she had been safe her whole life. And where had it gotten her? Working double shifts to barely make rent, eating peanut butter for dinner, letting fear keep her small. Okay, she said. Saturday, 2 p.m., Washington Square Park. He smiled that transforming smile again. I'll be there. As she walked home that afternoon, Sophia felt something she had not felt in 3 years. She felt hopeful. She felt like maybe, just maybe, something good was about to happen. She did not know that Mark was really Marcus Thorne. She did not know about the penthouse or the company or the $800 million net worth. She did not know that the man who had pulled weeds beside her controlled decisions that affected thousands of people. But maybe that was okay. Maybe not knowing was exactly what both of them needed. A chance to be real with each other before the weight of truth came crashing down. A chance to fall without knowing how far the drop would be. Sophia opened her apartment door to find Rachel on the couch, staring at her phone with wide eyes. What's wrong? Sophia asked. Rachel looked up. Did you Google him? Who? Your driver, Mark. Why would I Google him? Rachel thrust her phone out. Because I did. Sophia, there's no driver named Mark in any car service. I checked. Sophia felt cold settle in her stomach. What? I'm not trying to scare you. I just think you should be careful. We don't actually know who this guy is. Sophia took the phone but did not look at it. He's not dangerous, she said. I would know. Would you? Rachel's voice was gentle but firm. People hide things soft, especially men. Sophia handed the phone back. I'm seeing him on Saturday, she said, and I'll be careful, I promise. But alone that night, after Rachel had gone to bed, Sophia lay awake and wondered, who was Mark really? Why had he come to find her? What did he want? The questions circled in her mind like birds that could not land. But underneath the questions was something else, something that felt like possibility, like maybe her life was about to change in ways she could not predict or control. She reached for her sketchbook and turned to the drawing she had made of him. His eyes looked back at her from the page, kind and sad, and somehow familiar. She did not know what would happen on Saturday. She did not know if this would turn into something real or just another disappointment. But she knew one thing. She knew that for the first time since her mother died, she felt alive. Scared and uncertain, yes, but alive. And that had to count for something. That had to mean she was doing more than just surviving. Maybe, just maybe, she was beginning to live. Saturday came wrapped in the kind of autumn light that made New York City look like a painting. Sophia stood at the edge of Washington Square Park at exactly 2 in the afternoon, her heart doing complicated things in her chest. She had changed her outfit 3 times that morning, finally settling on the simple sundress Rachel had insisted she borrow, paired with her worn cardigan because the air still held a chill. Her hair was loose for once, falling past her shoulders in dark waves. She felt exposed and nervous and more alive than she had felt in months. She sat on the edge of the fountain, pulling out her sketchbook to calm her nerves. The park was full of Saturday energy. Students from NYU sprawled on the grass with textbooks. Street musicians played for coins. Children chased pigeons while their parents watched from benches. Sophia began to draw the arch, its marble white against the blue sky, trying to lose herself in the familiar motion of pencil on paper. Art had always been her refuge, the place where anxiety could not follow. She did not see Marcus approach, did not know he had been watching her for a full minute, taking in the way she held her pencil, the concentration on her face, the small furrow between her eyebrows. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft, careful not to startle her. Is that me? Sophia jumped anyway, her pencil making an unexpected line across the page. She looked up, and there he was. Mark, or the man she knew as Mark. He wore jeans that fit perfectly, and a dark Henley that made his eyes look even more intense. No suit today, no tie, just a man who looked like he belonged in a casual Saturday afternoon, even though something about him still seemed too polished, too careful, too aware of the space he occupied. "No," she said, laughing at herself, at her nerves. "I'm not that presumptuous." He sat down beside her, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something subtle and expensive that she did not have a name for. "Disappointed," he said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. Sophia closed her sketchbook, suddenly shy. "Want me to draw you?" "Only if I can keep it," he said. His eyes met hers, and there was something in them, something hungry and hopeful and just a little bit lost. They walked to a coffee shop Marcus knew, a small place tucked between two buildings that Sophia had passed 100 times but never entered. Inside, it was all warm wood and soft light, the kind of place where people lingered over books and conversations. The coffee smelled rich and real, nothing like the burnt offerings at Metro Diner. Sophia ordered an iced coffee, even though it was too cold for it, just to have something to do with her hands. Marcus got an Americano, black, and when the barista told them the total, Sophia pulled out her wallet. "I asked you out," Marcus said gently, "and I said yes. She put cash on the counter, we split it." He looked at her for a long moment, and she thought he might argue. But instead he just smiled, that transforming smile that made him look younger, less burdened. "Fair enough," he said. They found a table by the window, and for the first few minutes, they just looked at each other, both a little uncertain about how to begin. Finally, Marcus said, "Tell me about your mother's art." Sophia wrapped her hands around her cup, grateful for the question. For the opening, she painted landscapes, she said. Watercolors mostly. But she always put a person in them somewhere. Small, easy to miss if you were not looking. She said everyone deserves to be in the picture. "I love that," Marcus said. "Like, where's Waldo?" Sophia laughed, surprised and delighted. "Exactly like that. That's what I used to call it. Mom's Waldo paintings." They talked about art for a while, about how Marcus's mother had painted too, how she had given it up when she got married, and how that sacrifice had haunted her. Sophia told him about her mother's classroom, about the children who had loved her, about how Maria Chen had believed that teaching art was teaching children to see the worth in themselves and each other. Marcus listened with an intensity that made Sophia feel like every word mattered, like her memories were not just stories, but something precious. "She sounds like she was an incredible person," he said quietly. She was. Sophia felt the familiar ache, the missing that never quite went away. "She died believing I would keep drawing. I promised her I would." "And you have," Marcus said. "That's not a small thing." "Sometimes it feels small," Sophia admitted. "When I am serving coffee and my feet hurt, and I have not picked up a pencil in days because I am too tired. Sometimes it feels like I am failing her." Marcus reached across the table and took her hand. His palm was warm, his fingers steady. "You're not failing," he said. "You're surviving." That's what she would want. Sophia looked at their joined hands and felt something shift in her chest, something opening that she had kept carefully closed. "How do you know?" she asked. "You did not know her." "Because I know you," he said, "and I can see her in you. The way you see people, the way you draw them with dignity. That's her legacy." They sat like that for a long moment, hands linked across the table, the coffee shop noise fading to background. Sophia wanted to ask him questions about his work, about his life, about why a man who could afford expensive watches and perfect clothes was spending his Saturday afternoon with a waitress from East Harlem. But she was afraid of the answers, afraid that knowing too much would break whatever this was. "Tell me about your work," she said instead. "What does tech consulting really mean?" Marcus's thumb moved against her palm, a small nervous gesture. "I help companies make decisions," he said. "Big decisions about direction and strategy. A lot of people depend on me getting it right." "That sounds stressful." "It is." He looked out at the window, his profile sharp against the afternoon light. "Sometimes I wonder if I am doing what I am supposed to do or just what is expected of me." Sophia understood that feeling more than she could say. "I feel that," she said. "Should I be practical and get a real job, or should I keep chasing my mother's dream?" "What do you want?" "Both." Sophia laughed at herself. "I want to pay rent and draw." "Greedy, right?" "That's not greedy," Marcus said, looking back at her. "That's human." After coffee, they walked through the park, taking the long way around, neither of them ready for the afternoon to end. Marcus bought pretzels from a vendor, and they sat on a bench, watching street performers and chess players and students reading under trees. Sophia pulled out her sketchbook and drew quick gesture sketches of people passing by. Marcus watched her work, asking questions about her process, genuinely interested in how she decided what to capture and what to let go. "This is nice," Sophia said after a while. "The park, the day, him beside her. I don't have to perform, I can just be." "I feel the same," Marcus said quietly. "With you, I can just be Mark." They were watching a musician playing guitar when a woman in a business suit walked past, talking loudly on her phone. She stopped mid-sentence, staring at Marcus. "Mr. Thorne?" Marcus went very still. Sophia felt him tense beside her. "I'm sorry," he said to the woman, his voice carefully neutral. "You have me confused with someone else." The woman stepped closer, studying his face. "Oh," she said finally, "my mistake. You look exactly like someone I know." "Common face," Marcus said with a forced smile. "Happens all the time." The woman apologized and walked away. Sophia watched her go, then looked at Marcus. "Thorne?" she said. "That's an interesting name." Marcus's jaw was tight. "It's more common than you would think." He stood abruptly. "Are you hungry? I know a place that makes incredible pasta." Sophia let him change the subject, but the moment stayed with her, a small seed of doubt planting itself somewhere she could not quite reach. They went to a small Italian restaurant with checkered tablecloths and candles and wine bottles, the kind of place that felt like a secret, like you had to know about it to find it. They shared a plate of carbonara and a tiramisu, laughing about bad customer stories and worse consultant meetings. Marcus told her about a client who wanted to revolutionize an industry, but could not articulate what the industry actually did. Sophia told him about a customer who had sent back coffee 3 times because it was not hot enough, then not cold enough, then not wet enough. "Not wet enough?" Marcus repeated, laughing so hard he had to put down his fork. "Coffee is literally a liquid." "I know." Sophia was laughing too, the kind of real laughter that came from deep in the belly. "I asked him what he wanted, and he said juice. He wanted juice. He was at a diner asking for coffee to be more like juice." They laughed until they could not breathe, until other diners were looking at them with fond annoyance. It felt good. It felt like being young and carefree, like the weight of the world could be set down for a few hours. When they finally calmed down, wiping tears from their eyes, Marcus looked at her with something close to wonder. "When was the last time you laughed like that?" he asked. Sophia had to think about it. "A long time," she admitted. "Before my mom got sick, maybe." "Me too," Marcus said. "Years." They walked slowly after dinner, neither wanting the day to end. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. They ended up at the subway entrance where Sophia would catch her train home. She turned to face him, suddenly aware that this was the moment, the end of the date, the place where they would either move forward or step back. "Thank you," she said. "This was really wonderful." "Can we do it again?" Marcus asked. "Wednesday, maybe? Midweek break from reality?" Sophia felt her heart lift. "I work until 3. After? Perfect." He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering just a moment too long to be casual. "I'll text you." They hugged goodbye, an awkward sweet embrace that lasted just long enough to feel significant. Sophia descended into the subway, looking back at the top of the stairs to see him still standing there, watching. She waved. He waved back. And as the train carried her home through the dark tunnels, Sophia felt something she had not felt in a very long time. She felt hopeful. Over the next 2 weeks, they fell into a pattern. Wednesday afternoons became theirs. Saturday mornings, too. Marcus would text her the night before, suggesting a place, a plan, always asking, never demanding. They went to the Museum of Natural History, where they sketched dinosaurs together. Sophia had to hide her laughter at Marcus's attempts to draw, his T-Rex looking more like a deformed chicken than a fearsome predator. "You are terrible at this," she said, trying to keep her voice serious. "I never claimed artistic talent," he said, studying his drawing with mock seriousness. "But I am excellent at moral support." She took his hand and guided the pencil, showing him how to hold it, how to let the lines flow. Their faces were close, her hair falling forward to brush his shoulder. When he finally got a line right, capturing the curve of the dinosaur's spine, he looked at her with such pure joy that she felt something catch in her throat. They rented a rowboat in Central Park on a Saturday, Marcus rowing while Sophia sketched him. He worked too hard at it, putting too much muscle into each stroke, fighting the current instead of working with it. "You're a control freak," she said, watching him. Clearly, he agreed, not even offended. "Let the water help you. Stop trying to dominate everything." He adjusted his grip, loosened his shoulders, and found the rhythm. The boat moved more smoothly. Sophia captured it all in quick pencil strokes. The concentration on his face, the way the light caught the water droplets on the oars. When she showed him the sketch later, he stared at it for a long time. "You made me look peaceful," he said quietly. "You are peaceful when you're not overthinking." One Wednesday, Sophia took him to her neighborhood, showing him the places that mattered to her. The bodega where Mrs. Lopez greeted her in Spanish and English, immediately asking if Marcus was her boyfriend. The community garden where she spent Sunday mornings with her hands in the dirt. The basketball courts where kids played pickup games and called out to her as she passed. Marcus took it all in, asking questions, remembering names, treating her world with the same respect he would give to anything important. "You do this every week?" he asked as they walked through the garden. "Volunteer here?" "It keeps me grounded," Sophia said, literally. "Can I help sometime?" he asked. "Next Sunday?" Sophia stopped walking and looked at him. "Really? You want to dig in dirt? With you?" "Yes." The following Sunday, Marcus showed up at 8 in the morning wearing old jeans and a t-shirt that had seen better days. He looked different like this, more real somehow, less perfect. He worked beside her in the tomato section, pulling weeds and staking plants, getting dirt under his fingernails and not caring. The other gardeners watched with curiosity, but accepted him the way they accepted everyone who came to help. Mr. Washington, an elderly man who had been gardening there for 20 years, worked across from them and kept up a running commentary about the weather and the soil and the best way to keep aphids off roses.
"You're a good worker," Mr. Washington said to Marcus after an hour. "Can tell a man by how he works."
"Thank you," Marcus said, and Sophia could hear genuine pleasure in his voice, like the compliment mattered more than any business accolade. They had lunch afterward at a small Thai place, both of them dirty and happy and tired. Sophia could not stop smiling. "I can't believe you actually came," she said. "Why wouldn't I? Most guys I've dated would never be caught dead in a community garden." "I'm not most guys," Marcus said. Sophia looked at him across the table, at the smudge of dirt on his cheek, at the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. "No," she said quietly, "you're not." The moment stretched between them, charged with something neither of them had named yet. Finally, Marcus reached across the table and took her hand. "Sophia," he said, "can I ask you something?" "Anything. This us, what are we doing?" Sophia's heart hammered. "I want this to be real," she said. "Whatever it is, I want it to be real." "It is real," Marcus said, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "I promise you that." "Good." Sophia held his gaze. "Because I am starting to care, and that scares me." "I'm scared too," he admitted. They held hands across the table, the lunch crowd moving around them, the city noise filtering through the windows. It was the first time they had acknowledged what was happening between them. The first time they had let the possibility of something more than friendship exist in the open air. Sophia felt vulnerable and terrified, and more herself than she had felt in years. But even as their relationship deepened, Marcus lived a double life that was slowly eating him alive. Every morning he woke up in his penthouse apartment 40 floors above the city and put on a suit worth more than most people made in a month. He attended board meetings and conference calls, made decisions that affected thousands of employees, signed contracts worth millions of dollars. He was Marcus Thorne, CEO, powerful and respected and utterly alone. Then he would change clothes in his car, jeans and a sweater, normal shoes, a cheaper watch. He would become Mark, the tech consultant who had too much free time and not enough ambition. He would meet Sophia at her diner or her neighborhood or wherever she wanted to go. And for those few hours, he would feel like a real person, like someone who mattered not for what he controlled, but for who he was. The guilt was constant. Every time Sophia asked about his work and he deflected. Every time she showed him her world, and he could not show her his. Every time she trusted him with the truth, and he held back the biggest truth of all. He told himself he would tell her soon, next week, next month, when the time was right. But the time was never right, because telling her meant risking losing her. And losing her felt like losing the only real thing he had. Victoria kept calling, kept texting, kept showing up at his office with concerns about his behavior, his decisions, his state of mind. "We need to talk about the quarterly reports," she would say. "We need to talk about the merger. We need to talk about us." But there was no us, not anymore, and Marcus made that clear every time. "There's someone else, isn't there?" Victoria said one afternoon, standing in his office with her arms crossed. "You're different, distracted." "My personal life is not your concern," Marcus said without looking up from his computer. "Everything about you concerns me," Victoria said. "We were engaged, Marcus. We were going to build an empire together." "Were," Marcus said, past tense. "Please leave." After she left, Marcus sat at his desk and put his head in his hands. He was 33 years old, and he had everything anyone could want. Money, power, success, respect. And all of it felt hollow compared to a few hours with Sophia, watching her draw, listening to her talk about her mother, feeling her hand in his. He pulled out his phone and looked at the photo he had taken of her last Sunday in the garden, her face smudged with dirt, her smile so genuine it hurt to look at. He loved her. The thought came sudden and certain and terrifying. He loved her, and he was lying to her every single day. Sophia was having her own doubts, though she tried to push them away. Rachel had noticed the change in her, the way she smiled at her phone, the way she hummed while doing dishes, the way she talked about Mark constantly. "So it's serious?" Rachel asked one night while they made dinner together. "I think so," Sophia said. "I don't know, it feels serious." "But?" Rachel always heard the buts. Sophia chopped vegetables, not meeting her eyes. "I don't really know him," she admitted. "Not really. What does he do all day? Where does he live?" "We always meet out, never at his place." "Have you asked?" "Sort of. He's vague. Says he travels for work, has a small place downtown that's always a mess." Rachel put down her spoon. "Soph, you don't think he's married?" The thought had occurred to Sophia more than once, though she pushed it away every time. "No," she said firmly. "No ring. And he's with me all the time. A married man couldn't do that." "Then what?" "I don't know." Sophia finally looked at her friend. "Maybe I am paranoid. Maybe I am looking for problems because I'm scared of being happy. Or maybe you should ask him directly," Rachel said gently. "If this is real, he should be able to answer your questions." So Sophia tried, casual questions woven into their conversations. "Where do you live exactly?" "Downtown," Marcus would say. "Small place, nothing special. Can I see it sometime?" "Soon," he would promise. "It's really a mess right now. What kind of car do you drive when you're not working?" "Just a sedan. Nothing fancy." She accepted his answers because she wanted to. Because pushing harder felt like it might break whatever fragile thing they were building. Henry at the diner was not so easily satisfied. He had started asking questions, making calls to friends in the car service industry. No one had heard of a driver named Mark. No one recognized the description Sophia gave. One afternoon, Henry pulled her aside during her break. "I asked around," he said quietly. "There is no driver named Mark at any service in the city." Sophia felt her stomach drop. "Uncle Henry, why are you investigating him?" "Because something is not right," Henry said. "He's too polished, too educated, too something. Men like that don't drive cars for a living." "Maybe he's just a good guy who is between things," Sophia said, hearing the defensiveness in her own voice. "Maybe," Henry said. "But, Mija, some men have secrets that hurt. Be careful." "I trust him," Sophia said. Henry looked at her with sad, wise eyes. "I trust your judgment. But watch for the truth. It always comes out eventually." That night, Sophia lay awake while Rachel slept, looking at the sketches she had made of Marcus over the past 2 weeks. She had drawn him more than she realized. His hands on the oars, his profile at the museum, his smile at the coffee shop. In one drawing, she had unconsciously captured his watch, expensive and gleaming on his wrist. In another, his shoes, leather and perfectly made. She looked at these details now and wondered what she had been choosing not to see. "Who are you really?" she whispered to the drawings. but the pencil lines could not answer. A month after their first date, Marcus took her to a rooftop. He said it belonged to a friend, though he did not say which friend or how he had gotten access. When Sophia arrived, following his texted instructions through an unfamiliar building and up to the top floor, she found him standing among string lights and a simple picnic laid out on a blanket. The view stretched across Manhattan, the city glittering below them like scattered stars. "Wow," she breathed. "This is beautiful." Marcus turned to her, backlit by the lights, and for a moment she could not breathe. "I wanted to do something special," he said. They ate sandwiches and fruit, drank wine from plastic cups, watched the sunset and the city lights come on. Sophia felt like she was in a dream, like none of this could be real. Men like him did not do things like this for women like her. But here he was. Here they were. Maybe it was real after all. Maybe she was allowed to have this. As the sky darkened, as the first stars appeared, Marcus took her hand. "Sophia," he said, "I need to ask you something, and I need honesty." "You're married," she said, her heart in her throat. "What? No." He looked genuinely shocked. "I'm not married. I'm not seeing anyone else. But I need to know, are you happy? In your life, I mean, before we met." Sophia thought about it. "No," she said honestly, "I wasn't. I was surviving, but not really living. And now? Now I remember what happy feels like." Marcus moved closer, his free hand coming up to cup her face. "I love you," he said. The words hung between them, precious and terrifying. Sophia's breath caught. It had been 5 weeks. Only 5 weeks since the wrong car, since the rainy night, since everything changed. It was too fast. It was impossible. It was exactly right. "I love you too," she whispered. He kissed her then, soft and careful at first, then deeper, then tender in a way that made her feel cherished. It was their first real kiss, and it felt like a promise, like a door opening, like everything she had been waiting for without knowing she was waiting. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Sophia rested her forehead against his. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Me too," he said. "But Sophia, I need you to know something. There can't be secrets between us." "No secrets?" she asked. "No secrets," he said, hating himself even as he said it. Because there was still the biggest secret, the one that could destroy everything. They held each other as the city spread out below them, and Sophia felt like maybe everything would be okay. Maybe this was real. Maybe she was allowed to have this happiness. But somewhere deep inside, a voice whispered that it was too perfect, too good, too carefully constructed. Somewhere deep inside, she knew that secrets always had a way of coming out. The following week, Victoria Ashford saw Marcus downtown. It was pure chance, the kind of coincidence that changes everything. She was leaving a lunch meeting when she spotted him across the street, walking with his hands in his pockets, dressed in jeans and a sweater she had never seen before. He was carrying flowers and smiling to himself like a man with a secret. Victoria made a call to her private investigator that afternoon. "Find out who he's seeing," she said. "I want to know everything." The report came back a week later. Photos of Marcus and Sophia holding hands in Washington Square Park, kissing on a rooftop, walking through East Harlem like they belonged together. The investigators' notes were clinical. Sophia Chen, 26, waitress at Metro Diner, lives in East Harlem with roommate Rachel Martinez, mother deceased, no significant assets, dreams of being an artist. There was more. Details about her volunteer work and her Instagram and her daily routine, but Victoria stopped reading after the first paragraph. "A waitress," she said out loud to her empty apartment. "He left me for a waitress." But as she looked at the photos, she realized something else. In every single picture, Marcus looked happy, really happy. Not the polished performance of happiness he had shown with her, but genuine joy. And the girl, this Sophia, she was looking at him like he was just a man. Not Marcus Thorne, billionaire. Not Marcus Thorne, CEO. Just a man. Victoria picked up her phone and called Marcus. They needed to talk, urgently. When he tried to refuse, she played her card. "It's about your little secret, the one who thinks you're Mark the driver. Either you meet me tomorrow or I introduce myself." The silence on the other end of the line was answer enough. Marcus agreed to lunch. The next day, Victoria chose the restaurant carefully. somewhere exclusive, somewhere that screamed money and power, somewhere that would remind Marcus of who he really was. When he arrived in a suit, his face tight with anger, she slid the photos across the table. "You had me followed," Marcus said, his voice dangerous. "I had to know who was stealing you from me," Victoria said. "I was never yours. Even when we were engaged, I was never really yours." Victoria felt the words like a slap, but kept her composure. "And she has you? A waitress?" "She sees me," Marcus said, "really sees me. Not my name, not my money, me." "Because you lied to her," Victoria pointed out. "She doesn't know who you are. She thinks you're some middle-class consultant. The second she finds out the truth, she'll realize you made a fool of her." Marcus stood abruptly. "Is that why you called me here? To tell me what I already know?" Victoria leaned back in her chair, studying him. "I'll give you 1 week," she said. "Tell her who you are. Let her make an informed choice, or I will tell her myself." "Why do you care?" Marcus asked. "Because when she leaves you," Victoria said with certainty, "you'll come back to me. Women like her don't stay with men like us. The gap is too big." "You're wrong," Marcus said, but his voice lacked conviction. After he left, Victoria sat alone with her wine and looked at the photos again. She was not wrong. She knew how the world worked. She knew that fairy tales were just stories and that eventually everyone woke up to reality. Marcus would come back to her. It was only a matter of time. Marcus sat in his car in the parking garage for an hour after the meeting, shaking with rage and fear and guilt. Victoria was right about one thing. He had to tell Sophia the truth. But how did you tell someone you loved that you had been lying to them from the very beginning? How did you explain that the person they thought you were did not exist? He called his lawyer and set up a trust fund. $500,000, untraceable to him, to be activated if and when Sophia walked away. It would pay for art school, for supplies, for a gallery show, for everything she had ever dreamed of. It was not about buying forgiveness. It was about making sure she would be okay even if he had broken her heart. That evening, he met Sophia at their usual coffee shop, trying to act normal even though his world was crumbling. She took one look at his face and knew something was wrong. "You okay?" she asked. "You seem tense." "Just work stress," he lied. One more lie added to all the others. "Want to talk about it?" "Not yet. Soon." He pulled her close, holding her like she might disappear. "But Sophia?" "Yeah? You know I love you, right?" She pulled back to look at him, concern in her eyes. "Yes, I love you too. What's wrong?" "Nothing." He forced a smile. "Everything's fine. I just wanted you to know." They sat together in the coffee shop, and Marcus memorized everything about her. The way she held her cup, the sound of her laugh, the light in her eyes when she talked about her art. He memorized it all because he knew that soon, very soon, he would have to tell her the truth. And when he did, all of this might end. Sophia went home that night feeling unsettled in a way she could not name. Rachel was already asleep, but Sophia could not settle. She looked at her phone, at the texts from Marcus, at the photos they had taken together. She thought about how he had held her tonight, like he was afraid to let go. She thought about the tension in his shoulders, the shadow in his eyes. Something was coming. She could feel it the way you feel a storm before the first drops of rain. Something was about to change, and she did not know if she was ready for it, did not know if whatever they had built together was strong enough to survive the truth when it finally came. She fell asleep with her phone in her hand, Marcus's last text still glowing on the screen. "I love you. Sleep well." And underneath those words, underneath the warmth and affection, she heard something else. Something that sounded like goodbye. The week after Victoria's ultimatum felt like living with a clock counting down to disaster. Marcus woke each morning with the weight of unspoken truth pressing on his chest. 7 days, then 6, then 5. Each day he told himself that today would be the day he would sit Sophia down and explain everything. Each night he went to bed having failed again, the secret still locked between them like a wall he could not bring himself to tear down. He met Sophia on Wednesday as planned, taking her to a small gallery in Chelsea that was showing contemporary portraits. She moved through the space with her artist's eye, studying each painting with the kind of attention most people reserved for mirrors. Marcus watched her more than he watched the art, memorizing the way she tilted her head when something caught her interest, the small sound she made when a piece moved her. He was collecting memories the way some men collected coins, hoarding them against the poverty that was coming. "This one is technically perfect," Sophia said, standing before a large canvas of a woman's face rendered in photorealistic detail. "But it doesn't have a soul. Do you know what I mean?" Marcus stood beside her, looking at the painting but seeing nothing. "I do," he said. "Perfect and empty." Sophia glanced at him, concern flickering across her face. "You've been quiet today. Are you okay?" He wanted to tell her then, wanted to say, "I'm Marcus Thorne and I've been lying to you since the moment we met. And I'm so sorry and I love you and please don't hate me." Instead, he said, "I'm fine, just tired." She took his hand, lacing their fingers together. "You work too hard," she said softly. "Whatever they're paying you, it's not enough." The irony made him want to laugh or cry or both. He squeezed her hand instead and led her to the next painting. 4 days left. On Thursday, Sophia had the afternoon off, and Marcus took her to the New York Public Library. They sat in the reading room under the painted ceiling, surrounded by the weight of human knowledge and human stories, and Sophia sketched the afternoon light falling through the tall windows. Marcus tried to read, but the words blurred on the page. He kept looking at her, at the concentration on her face, the way she bit her lower lip when she was working on a difficult line. "Mark," she said, without looking up from her sketchbook, "can I ask you something?" "Anything," he said, his heart already bracing. "Why don't you ever talk about your family? Your father, I mean. You mentioned him once, but you never say more." Marcus set down his book. "We're not close," he said carefully. "He had certain expectations for my life. I met them, but it cost me something." "What did it cost you?" Marcus thought about his mother, about the paintings she never finished, about the light that went out of her eyes when she chose duty over passion. "Myself, for a while," he said, "but I'm trying to find my way back." Sophia looked at him then, really looked at him, and he wondered if she could see the truth written on his face. "Is that why you left your old life?" she asked. "To start over?" "Something like that," he said. It was not quite a lie, but it was not quite the truth either. "I think that's brave," Sophia said. "Starting fresh, being willing to walk away from what's expected to find what's real." Marcus felt the words like a knife. 3 days left. Friday evening, Marcus sat in his penthouse with a glass of whiskey he had not touched, staring at his phone. He had drafted and deleted a dozen texts to Sophia. "Can we talk? I need to tell you something. There's something you should know." Each version felt inadequate, felt like it would only alarm her without explaining anything. "How did you text someone that you had been living a lie?" His phone rang. Victoria. He let it go to voicemail. She called back immediately. And again. Finally, he answered. "What?" he said flatly. 2 days left, Marcus. Have you told her?" "That's not your concern." "It will be my concern when I have to do it for you." Victoria's voice was sharp. "I'm not being cruel. I'm being realistic. She deserves to know who she's dating." "Don't pretend this is about her," Marcus said. "This is about you wanting me back." "Maybe," Victoria admitted. "But I'm also right. You know I'm right. The longer you wait, the worse this gets." Marcus hung up without responding. He knew she was right. He had known it from the beginning. But knowing and doing were separated by a chasm he could not seem to cross. He looked at the city spread out below his windows, thousands of lives playing out in thousands of lit windows, and felt more alone than he had ever felt. On Saturday morning, Sophia was at the diner when an envelope arrived for her. Henry brought it to her during her break, his expression puzzled. "This was just delivered for you." Sophia took the heavy cream envelope, her name written in elegant script across the front. Inside was an invitation, the kind printed on thick cardstock that felt expensive in her hands. "The Metropolitan Arts Gala. You are cordially invited. Black tie, this Saturday evening, guest of the Margaret Thorne Foundation." "Who's Margaret Thorne?" she asked Henry. Henry adjusted his reading glasses, studying the invitation. "I think she was a patron of the arts. Died a couple years ago. Rich family. Why are they inviting you?" Sophia turned the invitation over, looking for more information. "I have no idea." "Maybe it's a mistake?" "Your name is on it," Henry pointed out. "And look, there's a note." Tucked inside the envelope was a smaller card in different handwriting. "Ms. Chen, Your Instagram account was brought to my attention by a colleague. Your work shows remarkable sensitivity to the working class experience. I would like to discuss a potential collaboration. Please attend as my guest. Dr. Eleanor Price, Chief Curator. Sophia's hands started to shake. Dr. Eleanor Price was famous in the art world, known for championing emerging artists and challenging the establishment's narrow view of what art should be. And she wanted to meet Sophia, wanted to discuss her work. "This is incredible," Rachel said that evening when Sophia showed her the invitation. "This could change everything." "I don't have anything to wear," Sophia said, panic starting to set in. "I can't afford a gala dress. I can't afford a taxi to wherever this even is. I can't." Rachel held up her hands. "Stop. My cousin got married last year and never returned her bridesmaid dress. It's your size. We'll make this work." "But what if it's too fancy? What if I don't belong there?" Rachel looked at her seriously. "Soph, you're an artist. You belong anywhere art is. Don't let fear keep you small." Sophia thought about her mother, about how Maria had always told her that talent was not about money or connections, but about seeing truth and having the courage to share it. She thought about the invitation, about the opportunity being offered. She thought about everything she had been working toward for years. "Okay," she said, "I'll go." She did not tell Marcus about the invitation. She meant to, but when he came by the diner on Saturday morning, he looked so tense and unhappy that she did not want to add to whatever was troubling him. He held her hand across the table and told her he loved her 3 times in 10 minutes, like he was trying to memorize the words. "Are you sure you're okay?" she asked. "I will be," he said. "Sophia, if I ever hurt you, you need to know it wouldn't be intentional." The word sent a chill through her. "Why would you hurt me?" "I wouldn't mean to," he said. "But sometimes we hurt people even when we're trying to protect them." "Mark, you're scaring me. What's going on?" He looked like he was about to say something, his mouth opening, his eyes full of something that looked like desperation. Then his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his jaw tightened. "I have to take this," he said. "Work emergency." He stepped outside and Sophia watched through the window as he paced, one hand in his hair, his whole body tense. When he came back in, he looked defeated. "I have to go," he said. "I'm sorry, something came up." "Tonight?" Sophia asked. "Can we see each other tonight?" Marcus hesitated, and in that hesitation, Sophia felt something crack. "I don't think tonight works," he said. "Tomorrow?" "Sure," Sophia said, trying to keep the hurt out of her voice. "Tomorrow." He kissed her goodbye, holding her face between his hands like she was something precious and fragile. "I love you," he said. "Remember that. Whatever happens, remember I love you." "I love you too," she said, confusion and concern warring in her chest. "But Marcus, please tell me what's wrong." "Tomorrow," he promised. "Tomorrow I'll explain everything." He left and Sophia stood in the diner watching him go, a cold feeling settling in her stomach. Henry came to stand beside her. "That man has secrets," he said quietly. "Everyone has secrets," Sophia said. "Some secrets are bigger than others, mija. Some secrets change everything." That evening, Sophia got ready for the gala with Rachel's help. The bridesmaid dress was a deep midnight blue that made her skin glow, and her eyes look almost black. It fit perfectly, skimming her curves without being too tight, elegant without trying too hard. Rachel did her hair, pulling it into a soft updo with a few loose tendrils framing her face. Sophia borrowed earrings and shoes, feeling like she was playing dress-up in someone else's life. "You look beautiful," Rachel said, stepping back to admire her work. "I look terrified," Sophia said, staring at her reflection. "You look like you belong," Rachel corrected. "Now go show them what real art looks like." The gala was being held at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the building lit up against the evening sky like a palace. Sophia arrived in a taxi that cost more than she wanted to think about, her heart hammering as she climbed the broad steps. Other guests swept past in gowns and tuxedos, diamonds catching the light, the air full of expensive perfume and quiet confidence. Sophia had never felt more out of place. Inside, the great hall had been transformed into something from a dream. Crystal chandeliers threw prismatic light across marble floors. Ice sculptures glittered on tables draped in white silk. Waiters moved through the crowd with champagne and canapes. A string quartet played something classical and complex. Everywhere Sophia looked, there was wealth and beauty, and the kind of effortless elegance that came from never having to worry about money. She found Dr. Eleanor Price near the Contemporary Gallery, a tall woman in her late 50s with silver hair and sharp eyes. Dr. Price greeted her warmly, talking about Sophia's Instagram work, asking intelligent questions about her process and her influences. Sophia began to relax, to feel like maybe she did belong here after all, like maybe talent really did matter more than background. Your work has an honesty that's rare, Dr. Price said. You see working people with dignity. That's important. That's what art should do. My mother taught me that, Sophia said. She was an art teacher. Then she taught you well. Dr. Price handed Sophia a glass of champagne. Come, let me introduce you to some people who might be interested in your work. They circulated through the crowd, Dr. Price making introductions, Sophia shaking hands with collectors and gallery owners and other artists. People were kind, interested, asking about her work. Sophia felt like she was floating, like her life was finally moving in the direction she had always dreamed of. She thought about texting Marcus, sharing this moment with him, but decided to wait until later. She wanted to tell him in person, wanted to see his face when she told him that her art was being taken seriously. Then the lights dimmed, and a voice came over the sound system asking everyone to move to the main ballroom for the evening's program. Sophia followed the crowd, still holding her champagne, feeling the buzz of possibility and hope. This was it. This was her moment. Everything was finally coming together. The ballroom was enormous, with a stage at one end and round tables filling the space. Sophia found a seat near the back, not wanting to presume she belonged closer to the front. The lights came up on stage and a man in a tuxedo stepped to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice carrying through the sound system, "thank you for joining us this evening to celebrate the arts and to honor the legacy of Margaret Thorne, whose foundation has supported countless emerging artists. Tonight, we are privileged to have with us her son, who has continued her mission with grace and generosity. Please welcome Marcus Thorne, CEO of Thorne Industries." The applause was thunderous. Sophia clapped along with everyone else, only half paying attention, her mind still on her conversation with Dr. Price. Then she looked up at the stage and her world stopped. It was Mark, her Mark, walking onto the stage in a tuxedo that fit him like it was made for his body. Moving with confidence and power, his shoulders back, his smile easy and practiced. But it was not Mark. It was Marcus Thorne, CEO, son of Margaret Thorne, billionaire. The man whose name she had heard once before, when that woman in the park had almost recognized him. The champagne glass slipped from Sophia's fingers, hitting the floor with a sound that seemed impossibly loud in the midst of the applause. No one noticed. Everyone was watching the stage, watching Marcus as he took the microphone and began to speak. "Thank you all for being here tonight," he said. And his voice was the same, the deep, careful voice she knew, but different too, more polished, more distant. My mother believed that art was not a luxury, but a necessity. She believed that everyone, regardless of background or income, deserved to have their stories told. Sophia could not breathe, could not think, could not process what she was seeing. This was not possible. This was not real. But there he was, larger than life on the stage, talking about his mother and art and legacy, and everyone was listening like he was someone important. Because he was someone important. He was Marcus Thorne. She stood up, her chair scraping loudly. A few people glanced at her, but most kept their attention on the stage. Sophia moved toward the exit, walking fast, not quite running, her mind screaming a single word over and over. "Liar, liar, liar." She made it to the hallway before she had to stop, pressing her back against the cool marble wall, trying to breathe. Her hands were shaking, her whole body was shaking. Marcus Thorne. Oh, billionaire. The man she loved was not who she thought he was. The man she loved did not exist. Sophia, she turned. And there he was, Marcus, having followed her off the stage, his expression desperate and afraid. She had never seen him afraid before. "Don't," she said, holding up her hand. "Don't say my name. Sophia, please, let me explain." "Explain what?" She heard her voice rising but could not control it. "That you're not Mark? That you're not a consultant? That you're not anything you said you were?" I never lied about my feelings, he said, moving closer. Everything between us was real. Sophia laughed, a harsh, broken sound. Real? You let me tell you about being poor, about struggling to pay rent, about my mother dying because we couldn't afford treatment. And the whole time you're a billionaire? I wanted you to see me, Marcus said. Not my money, not my name, just me. Then you should have told me the truth, Sophia said. You should have trusted me enough to let me make that choice. I was going to tell you, tomorrow. I was going to explain everything. Tomorrow, Sophia repeated. After how many tomorrows, Marcus? How long were you planning to keep this going? He did not answer. Could not answer. They both knew he had not been planning to tell her at all. Did Victoria know? Sophia asked suddenly. Is that why she looked at you like that in the restaurant? Marcus's silence was answer enough. Oh my God, Sophia said, the pieces falling into place. She knows. She's known all along. How many other people know? How many people have been watching me be a fool? No one thinks you're a fool, Marcus said. I think I'm a fool, Sophia said, tears starting to blur her vision. I trusted you. I let myself believe that someone could see me, could love me for who I am. And the whole time it was a game. It was never a game, Marcus said, his voice breaking. Sophia, I love you. That part was always true. You love the idea of me, Sophia said. The poor girl who made you feel normal, the novelty. But you don't actually love me because you don't actually know me. Because if you knew me, you would know I can't be with someone who lies. She turned to leave and he caught her arm. Please, he said. Please don't go. Sophia looked at his hand on her arm, at the expensive watch on his wrist that she had sketched without thinking about what it meant, at the man she thought she loved turning into a stranger before her eyes. Let go of me, she said quietly. He let go immediately, his hand falling to his side like it had been burned. Sophia walked away, her heels clicking on the marble floor, her spine straight, her head high. She would not let him see her break. She would not give him that. She made it outside before the sobs came, great gasping breaths that shook her whole body. She stood on the museum steps, the city lights blurring through her tears, and felt something fundamental break inside her. Not her heart, though that was broken too. Something deeper. The part of her that had been willing to hope, willing to trust, willing to believe that good things could happen to people like her. A taxi pulled up and Sophia climbed in, giving her address through the tears. The driver did not ask questions, just drove. And Sophia was grateful. She did not know how to explain this, did not know how to say that the man she loved had never existed, that she had been falling in love with a ghost, a performance, a lie. Rachel was waiting when Sophia got home, seeing her face and immediately pulling her into a hug. What happened? She asked. He's not who he said he was, Sophia managed through the sobs. Mark, his name is Marcus Thorne. He's a CEO, a billionaire, and I'm the idiot who didn't see it. Rachel held her while she cried, not offering platitudes, just presence. When the worst of the sobs subsided, she led Sophia to the couch and made tea. They did not drink and listened while Sophia told her everything. About the gala, about seeing him on stage, about the confrontation in the hallway, about how thoroughly and completely she had been fooled. I should have known, Sophia said, wiping her eyes. Henry tried to warn me. You tried to warn me, but I didn't want to see it. How could you have known? Rachel asked gently. He went to a lot of trouble to hide it. Because I'm smarter than this, Sophia said. Because I should have asked more questions. Because I let myself believe in a fairy tale. Her phone had been buzzing nonstop in her purse. Texts and calls from Marcus, dozens of them. Sophia, please talk to me. I'm sorry. I love you. Please. She turned off her phone without reading them all. That night, Sophia lay awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment they had spent together. The car ride, the diner visits, the dates, the garden, the rooftop. All of it tainted now, all of it recontextualized by the truth. He had been slumming, playing at being normal, and she had been his entertainment, his little project, his way of feeling like a regular guy. She thought about the trust fund Dr. Price had mentioned, the Margaret Thorne Foundation, his mother's foundation. Everything connected back to his money, his power, his privilege. Even her big break tonight, even Dr. Price's interest in her work. Could it have been arranged by him? Was anything in her life actually hers? Or had he been pulling strings she could not even see? The thought made her sick. She ran to the bathroom and vomited, kneeling on the cold tile floor, her body rejecting not just the champagne and canapes, but the whole evening, the whole lie, the whole impossible situation. Rachel came and held her hair, helped her rinse her mouth, led her back to bed. "It's going to be okay," Rachel said. "Is it?" Sophia asked. "Because right now it feels like nothing will ever be okay again." She fell asleep sometime near dawn, exhausted and empty and more alone than she had felt since her mother died. In her dreams, she was in a car in the back seat, and Mark was driving, taking her somewhere safe. But when she looked closer, his face kept changing, becoming Marcus, becoming a stranger, becoming nothing at all. And when she asked where they were going, he just kept driving in silence, while the city outside the windows grew darker and darker until there was no light left at all. She woke to Rachel's alarm, to Sunday morning light filtering through the thin curtains, to the realization that yesterday had not been a nightmare, but reality. Marcus Thorne, CEO, liar. The man she loved did not exist, and never had. Sophia's phone was still off, but when she finally turned it on, it exploded with notifications. Texts from Marcus, voicemails from Marcus, missed calls from numbers she did not recognize, and one email from Dr. Eleanor Price. "Ms. Chen, I want to assure you that my interest in your work has nothing to do with Marcus Thorne. I discovered your Instagram months ago and have been following your progress. The invitation came through the foundation because they sponsor emerging artists, but the decision to invite you was mine alone. I hope yesterday's revelation has not soured you on the opportunity we discussed. Your talent deserves recognition regardless of your personal life. Please contact me when you are ready." Sophia read the email 3 times, trying to decide if she believed it. Dr. Price had no reason to lie, and the timeline made sense. The foundation sponsored lots of artists. It did not have to be about her. But doubt had taken root in her heart, and now it poisoned everything, making her question every kindness, every opportunity, every moment of good luck. She deleted Marcus's texts without reading them, sent his calls to voicemail without listening. She did not owe him her attention. She did not owe him anything. On Sunday afternoon, Henry called. "Mia, are you okay?" He did not need to say more. News traveled fast in their neighborhood, and someone had clearly told him something. "I'm fine," Sophia lied. "Come to the diner," Henry said. "I'll make you breakfast. We'll talk." "I don't want to talk." "Then come and don't talk. But don't sit alone in that apartment breaking your own heart." Sophia went because Henry was right, and because the apartment felt too small, too full of memories of a man who had never really existed. The diner was quiet on Sunday afternoon, just a few regulars reading newspapers and drinking coffee. Henry sat across from her in a booth and pushed a plate of eggs and toast toward her. "Eat," he said. "I'm not hungry." "Eat anyway." Sophia picked at the food while Henry watched with sad, wise eyes. After a while, he said, "I'm sorry I was right." "Me too," Sophia said. "What are you going to do?" She had been asking herself the same question all night. What did you do when your whole life had been revealed as a lie, when the person you trusted most had been lying from the very beginning? "I don't know," she admitted. "Keep working, keep drawing, keep surviving." "That's my girl," Henry said. "You're stronger than you know." Sophia wanted to believe him, but she did not feel strong. She felt shattered. She felt like if someone touched her wrong, she would break into 1,000 pieces. But she also knew that Henry was right. She had survived her mother's death. She had survived poverty and struggle and disappointment. She would survive this too. She did not have a choice. On Monday morning, Sophia went back to work, tying her apron with shaking hands, forcing a smile for customers who did not know that her world had ended. One of the regulars asked if she was feeling okay. She looked pale. "Just tired," she said, "long weekend." If Marcus came to the diner, if he showed up in his jeans and sweater pretending to be Mark, she did not know what she would do. But he did not come. Monday passed, then Tuesday, then Wednesday. Her phone kept buzzing with his calls and texts, but she never answered. Some of the texts she read, unable to help herself. "Sophia, I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but please know that everything I told you about my feelings was true. I love you. I've never loved anyone the way I love you. Please let me explain. Please give me a chance." She did not respond. What was there to say? That she had loved him too? That she had imagined a future with him? All of that had been based on a lie. The man she had loved did not exist. There was only Marcus Thorne, billionaire, playing at being normal, and she wanted nothing to do with him. By Friday, the texts had stopped. The calls had stopped. Sophia told herself this was what she wanted, that his silence was a relief. But it also felt like a loss, like he had given up on her, like even his apologies had been performative. Everything about him had been a performance, and she had been a willing audience, believing every word, every gesture, every carefully constructed moment. Rachel found her that evening staring at her sketchbook, at the drawings she had made of him over the weeks they had been together, his hands, his eyes, his smile, page after page of a man who did not exist. "Are you going to throw them away?" Rachel asked. Sophia touched the sketches, her fingers tracing the lines of his face. "I should," she said, "but they're some of my best work." "They're also a reminder," Rachel said gently. "Of what?" Sophia asked. "That I'm a fool? That I can't trust my own judgment? That you love someone. Even if it didn't turn out the way you hoped, you loved. That counts for something." "Does it?" Sophia closed the sketchbook, "because right now it feels like it counts for nothing." That night, alone in the dark, Sophia allowed herself to cry one more time. Not for Marcus Thorne, CEO, but for Mark, the man who had listened to her in a car on a rainy night, who had pulled weeds in a community garden, who had looked at her art like it mattered. That man had been real, at least in those moments, and losing him hurt more than she had words for. But even as she cried, even as her heart broke, Sophia made herself a promise. She would not let this destroy her. She would not let Marcus Thorne's lie make her small. Her mother had taught her to keep seeing, keep drawing, keep believing in beauty even when life was hard. And Sophia would do that. She would survive this. She would take the pain and transform it into art, the way she had always done. She would turn this betrayal into something that mattered, something that spoke truth, something that proved she was more than just the girl who fell for a rich man's game. She did not know how yet. She did not know what came next. But she knew she would get through this. She had to, because giving up was not an option. And letting Marcus Thorne break her completely would be letting him win. And Sophia Chen did not lose. She survived. She endured. She kept going even when everything in her wanted to stop. Tomorrow she would wake up, she would go to work, she would draw, she would live, and eventually, somehow, the pain would fade and she would be okay again. She had to believe that. It was the only way forward. 3 weeks after the gala, Sophia stood in front of a blank canvas she had bought with her last paycheck. It was the first canvas she had owned in years, most of her work done in sketchbooks because they were cheaper, more portable, more practical. But this morning, she had walked into the art supply store on 23rd Street and bought canvas, brushes, real oil paints in colors that made her heart ache with possibility. She could not afford it. She did not care. Some things were more important than rent. The canvas waited, white and patient, in the corner of the apartment that Rachel had cleared for her. A makeshift studio, just a few square feet of space by the window where the morning light was good. Sophia mixed colors on an old plate, her hands remembering motions her mother had taught her when she was small. Burnt sienna for skin tones, ultramarine for shadows, titanium white for light. The smell of linseed oil brought back memories of her mother's classroom, of after-school hours spent watching Maria Chen teach children to see. She began to paint, not from a sketch this time, but from memory and emotion. A waitress at a diner counter, her face tired but dignified, her hands capable and strong. In the background, barely visible, a man in expensive clothes walking away. The composition was simple, but the emotion was complex. This was not about anger. It was about survival, about women who kept working even when their hearts were broken, about dignity that could not be bought or sold or taken away. Sophia painted for 6 hours straight, losing herself in the work the way she had not been able to lose herself in anything since the gala. When she finally stepped back, arms aching and eyes burning, she saw that she had created something true, something that hurt to look at, but needed to be seen. This was what her mother had meant about art giving voice to the invisible. This was the pain of working women everywhere, painted in oil and honesty. Rachel came home from her hospital shift and stood in the doorway, looking at the painting without speaking. Finally, she said, "It's beautiful. It's heartbreaking and beautiful." "It's the truth," Sophia said quietly. Over the next 2 weeks, Sophia painted 3 more pieces. A woman counting bills at a kitchen table, the numbers never quite adding up. A mother holding a sick child, the hospital bill visible on the counter behind her. A portrait of her own mother, Maria Chen, in her classroom, surrounded by children but somehow still alone. Each painting carried the weight of lived experience, of stories that the wealthy world preferred not to see. Sophia posted photos of the paintings on her Instagram. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Comments flooded in from people who saw themselves in the work, who recognized their own struggles and dignity reflected back at them. Her follower count jumped from 800 to 5,000 in 3 days. Gallery owners reached out. Collectors asked about prices. And through it all, Sophia felt something inside her healing, not forgetting, but transforming the pain into purpose. Dr. Eleanor Price called on a Wednesday afternoon while Sophia was working at the diner. Sophia almost did not answer, still half convinced that the curator's interest had been Marcus's doing. But curiosity won out. "Ms. Chen," Dr. Price said, her voice warm and professional, "I've been following your new work on Instagram. It's extraordinary. I'd like to meet with you, if you're willing." "About what?" Sophia asked carefully. "About a show, a proper gallery exhibition. Your work deserves to be seen by more than phone screens." Sophia's hand tightened on her phone. "With respect, Dr. Price, I need to know if this has anything to do with Marcus Thorne." "It has everything to do with you," Dr. Price said firmly, "and nothing to do with him. I discovered your work before you ever met him. My interest is in your talent, not his connections. But I understand if you need time to trust that." Sophia thought about hanging up, about protecting herself from another potential betrayal. But she also thought about her mother, about promises made, about not letting fear make her small. "When can we meet?" she asked. They met at a coffee shop in Chelsea, the same neighborhood where Sophia had gone to that first gallery with Marcus. The memory stung, but Sophia pushed it away, focusing on Dr. Price's words as the curator spread photos of Sophia's paintings across the table between them. "This one," Dr. Price said, pointing to the waitress painting. "This is the cornerstone. This is the piece that anchors the entire show. You're not romanticizing working-class life and you're not exploiting it. You're documenting it with respect. That's what makes it powerful." "I paint what I know," Sophia said, "and that authenticity shows." Dr. Price looked at her seriously. "I want to offer you a solo show at the Hargrove Gallery. It's small but well-respected. 3 walls, 15 pieces, opening in 8 weeks. Can you do it?" Sophia did the math in her head. 8 weeks to create 12 more paintings while working full-time at the diner. It was impossible. It was exactly what she needed. "Yes," she said. "I can do it." They shook hands, and Dr. Price slid a contract across the table. Standard terms for emerging artists. The gallery would take 40% of sales, but would handle all promotion and setup. Sophia read it carefully, understanding now that trust had to be earned and verified, not given blindly. She saw nothing suspicious, nothing that tied back to Marcus or his money. She signed her name and felt something shift in her chest. Hope, maybe. Or possibility. Or the beginning of believing in herself again. That evening, Sophia told Rachel about the show. Her friends screamed and hugged her, and insisted they celebrate with takeout Thai food and the good ice cream they usually could not afford. As they ate, Rachel asked the question Sophia had been avoiding. "Have you heard from him at all?" "No," Sophia said. "The texts stopped 2 weeks ago. I think he finally gave up." "How do you feel about that?" Sophia thought about it. "Relieved," she said, "and sad, and angry. And I don't know, it's complicated." "You loved him," Rachel said gently. "I loved someone who didn't exist," Sophia corrected. "That's not the same thing. But it felt real. That pain you're painting, that's real pain. Sophia looked at her half-eaten food, her appetite gone. Yes, she admitted, it's real, but I'm not going to let it define me. I'm going to transform it into something that matters. And she did. Over the next 6 weeks, Sophia painted like she was possessed. She worked her shifts at the diner, came home, and painted until 2 in the morning, slept for a few hours, and started again. Her hands were always stained with paint. Her eyes were always tired. But the work was good, better than anything she had created before. Each piece told a story of working-class dignity, of women who kept going when everything said to give up, of the invisible people who made the world run while the wealthy took credit. Henry watched her with concern, seeing the exhaustion in her face. "You need to rest, mija," he said one morning when she came in early to start her shift. "I'll rest after the show," Sophia said. "Your mother would want you to take care of yourself." "Mama would want me to tell the truth," Sophia said. "That's what I'm doing." She did not know that Marcus was doing his own work of transformation. She did not know that he had stepped down from daily operations at Thorne Industries, putting his most trusted deputy in charge, while he focused entirely on his mother's foundation. She did not know that he spent his days now visiting art programs in underfunded schools, meeting with working-class artists, learning about the barriers they faced and how to remove them. She did not know that every decision he made, he asked himself, what would Sophia think? Would this honor her values or just my guilt? Marcus had not contacted Sophia since she stopped responding to his messages. It was the hardest thing he had ever done, respecting her boundary, giving her space when every instinct screamed to keep trying. But he was learning, slowly and painfully, that love was not about what he wanted. It was about what she needed, and she needed him to leave her alone. Instead, he poured everything into the gallery he was building, not for her, though she had inspired it, for his mother, for the promise he had failed to keep, until Sophia reminded him what mattered. The space was in Chelsea, an old warehouse converted into soaring white walls and perfect light. He hired curators who understood working-class art. He set up a selection committee that included artists from the communities they wanted to serve. He made sure that his name was barely mentioned, that this was about the art and the artists, not about Marcus Thorne's redemption tour. The gallery was scheduled to open in 2 months, just a few weeks after Sophia's show at the Hargrove. Marcus did not know if she knew about it, did not know if she would care. But he hoped that someday, when she was ready, she might see that he had listened, that he had changed, that he was trying to be the person she had believed he was, even if he had lost the right to be that person for her. Victoria called him one afternoon while he was reviewing grant applications at the foundation office. She had not spoken to him since the gala, since everything had fallen apart exactly as she predicted it would. "I heard you're opening a gallery," she said without preamble. "News travels fast," Marcus said. "Is this about her, about the waitress?" Marcus felt his jaw tighten. "Her name is Sophia, and no, this isn't about her. It's about keeping a promise to my mother." Victoria was quiet for a moment. Then she said something he did not expect. "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For pushing you to tell her the way you did. I thought I was protecting you. I was actually being cruel." Marcus sat back in his chair, surprised. "Why are you saying this now?" "Because I saw her paintings," Victoria said, "the new ones she's been posting. And I realized something. She wasn't using you, she was real, and I cost you something that mattered." "You didn't cost me anything," Marcus said. "I cost myself by lying in the first place." "Maybe," Victoria said, "but I didn't help. For what it's worth, I'm sorry, and I hope someday she forgives you." After she hung up, Marcus sat at his desk and let himself feel the full weight of what he had lost. Not just Sophia, though losing her was its own kind of death, but the possibility of being Mark, of being seen as just a man instead of a bank account. She had given him that gift, and he had thrown it away by not trusting her with the truth. 6 weeks after the gala, on a cold November afternoon, Sophia received a package at the diner, heavy and carefully wrapped, addressed to her in handwriting she did not recognize. She opened it during her break, Henry watching with curiosity. Inside was a book. Not new, but carefully preserved, the cover soft with age. The Art of Seeing by Maria Chen. Sophia's hands started to shake. This was her mother's book, the collection of essays and teaching philosophies she had self-published 10 years before her death. Sophia had thought all the copies were gone, lost or given away or forgotten. She opened to the title page and found an inscription in her mother's familiar handwriting. "For my Sophia, who sees more clearly than anyone I know. Never stop looking. Never stop showing the world what you see. All my love, Mama." Sophia's vision blurred with tears. A note fell from the pages, typed on plain paper with no signature. "I found this at an estate sale 3 years ago. I've been keeping it safe, waiting for the right time to return it to you. Your mother was right about you. You see clearly. Keep showing the world." The handwriting on the envelope was not Marcus's, but the gesture felt like him, felt like something he would do. But how would he have found this? How would he have known? She showed the book to Henry, who turned it over in his hands with reverence. "Your mother was a wise woman," he said, "and someone who cares about you made sure you got this back." "Was it him?" Sophia asked. "Does it matter?" Henry asked gently. "It's yours now. That's what matters." Sophia took the book home and read it cover to cover that night, her mother's words washing over her like a benediction. Maria Chen had written about teaching children to see beauty in unexpected places, about how art was not about skill but about attention, about choosing to look closely at what others overlooked, about how the most important art gave voice to those who had none. Reading it, Sophia felt her mother's presence so strongly it almost hurt, and she understood that whoever had returned this book had given her something precious. Permission to forgive, maybe, or at least the reminder that good things could still happen. 2 weeks before Sophia's gallery opening, Dr. Price called with unexpected news. The Hargrove had been approached by the Margaret Thorne Foundation about sponsoring emerging artists. The foundation wanted to purchase one of Sophia's paintings for their permanent collection. They were offering $15,000 for the waitress painting, the cornerstone piece. Sophia's first instinct was to refuse. She did not want Marcus's money, did not want anything that tied back to him. But Dr. Price explained that the foundation had a selection committee, that multiple people made these decisions, that saying no would be letting her personal feelings hurt her career. "It's your choice," Dr. Price said. "But Sophia, $15,000 would change your life. You could quit one of your shifts at the diner. You could afford better supplies. You could breathe." Sophia thought about it for 2 days, wrestling with pride and practicality. Finally, she called Rachel. "What should I do?" she asked. "What does your gut say?" Rachel asked. "My gut says take the money," Sophia admitted. "My pride says refuse it." "Then maybe listen to your gut this time. You've earned this, Soph. Your talent earned this. Let yourself have it." Sophia called Dr. Price and accepted the offer. The contract was handled through lawyers, everything professional and distant. She never had to speak to Marcus or even hear his name. But she knew in her bones that he was behind this somehow. And she did not know if that made her angry or grateful or some complicated mixture of both. The week of the opening, Sophia barely slept. She had 14 paintings hung and ready, each one a piece of her heart made visible. The preview night was for collectors and critics, people Dr. Price invited specifically. Sophia wore the same blue dress she had worn to the gala, armor and reminder both. She would not hide from what had happened. She would stand in her truth and let her work speak. The gallery filled with people, and Sophia stood in the corner, watching them look at her paintings. Some walked past quickly, uncomfortable with the raw emotion. Others stood for long minutes, staring at the images of working women, of dignity and struggle, of truth told without apology. Sophia heard fragments of conversation, powerful work, raw but not exploitative. She understands her subjects because she is her subject. This is important. Dr. Price appeared at her elbow, smiling. "They love it," she said quietly. "We've already had 3 serious offers to purchase. You're going to be fine, Sophia. Better than fine." Sophia allowed herself to feel it. The validation, the recognition, the proof that her voice mattered. She had done this herself, through her own talent and determination and refusal to give up. Yes, Marcus's foundation had helped with the purchase. Yes, Dr. Price had connections. But the work itself, the truth in the paintings, that was all Sophia, and no one could take that away. Toward the end of the evening, an older gentleman approached her. He had been standing in front of the waitress painting for 20 minutes, just looking. When he finally spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. "My daughter works 3 jobs," he said. "She never complains. When I look at this painting, I see her. I see her strength. Thank you for painting it." Sophia felt tears prick her eyes. "That's why I do it," she said, "to make people like your daughter visible." He shook her hand and walked away, and Sophia understood then what her mother had meant. Art was not about hanging in museums or selling for high prices, though those things mattered. Art was about connection, about making someone feel seen, about proving that their struggles and their dignity had worth. This was what she was meant to do. This was her purpose. The opening ran late, people lingering to talk and look and ask questions. When everyone finally left, Sophia stood alone in the gallery, looking at her paintings on the walls. 14 pieces of her soul, her pain, her resilience, her truth. She had transformed her heartbreak into something that mattered. She had survived and more than survived. She had created. Dr. Price locked up and walked Sophia to the subway. "You did well tonight," she said. "You should be proud." "I am," Sophia said, and she meant it. That night she lay in bed, exhausted and exhilarated and sad, in a way she could not quite name. The show was a success. Her work was being recognized. She had $15,000 in her bank account and requests from 3 galleries for future shows. Everything she had dreamed of was beginning to happen. So why did she still feel the Marcus-shaped hole in her heart? She picked up her phone, scrolled to his contact that she had never deleted, and stared at the screen. Part of her wanted to call him, wanted to tell him about the opening, wanted to share this moment with the person who had once made her feel seen. But that person did not exist. There was only Marcus Thorne, billionaire, who had lied to her. And she could not forgive that. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Instead, she opened her mother's book and read until her eyes grew heavy. Before she fell asleep, she whispered into the dark, "I did it, Mama. I made them see, just like you taught me." The next morning, Sophia woke to her phone ringing. An unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. "Ms. Chen," a professional voice said, "this is Amanda Park from the Margaret Thorne Foundation. I'm calling about a gallery opening. We're hosting emerging artists and would love to include your work if you're interested." Sophia sat up in bed, suddenly wide awake. "What kind of gallery?" "It's a new space dedicated to working-class artists. We focus on providing opportunities to talented people who haven't had access to traditional art world channels. Your recent work aligns perfectly with our mission." Sophia's chest tightened. "When is the opening?" 6 weeks. "We know it's short notice, but we were impressed by your show at the Hargrove and would love 3 pieces if you can spare them." Sophia thought about saying no, about keeping her distance from anything connected to Marcus. But then she thought about the man at her opening, about how he had seen his daughter in her painting. She thought about all the other daughters and mothers and sisters whose stories deserved to be told. This was bigger than her hurt feelings. This was about the mission her mother had given her. "I'll do it," she said. "On one condition. I need to know that Marcus Thorne won't be involved in the selection or curation. This has to be about the art, not about me and him." Amanda was quiet for a moment. Mr. Thorne removed himself from all artist selections specifically to avoid any conflict of interest. The curators are independent. He won't even attend the opening unless you want him there. "I don't," Sophia said quickly. "Understood. So you're in?" "I'm in," Sophia said. After she hung up, Sophia sat with the complicated feelings churning in her chest. Marcus had removed himself from the process. Marcus had made sure she would not have to see him. Marcus was trying, in his way, to make amends without asking for forgiveness. It did not erase what he had done, but it was something. It was a start. Over the next weeks, Sophia selected 3 paintings for the Foundation Gallery. Pieces about community, about working together, about the strength found in supporting each other. She delivered them personally, wanting to see the space, wanting to understand what Marcus had built. The gallery took her breath away. Soaring ceilings and perfect light. Yes, but more than that. The walls held work by artists she recognized from Instagram, struggling creators who were finally getting their chance. The plaques beside each piece told the artist's story, where they came from, what they had overcome. This was not a vanity project. This was a real commitment to changing who got to be seen in the art world. Amanda gave her a tour explaining the foundation's programs: free supplies for school art programs, grants for artists who could not afford materials, mentorship programs connecting emerging artists with established ones, exhibition opportunities that did not require gallery connections or wealth. Everything Marcus's mother had wanted, finally happening. Did he really step away? Sophia asked as they stood in front of a powerful painting by a formerly homeless artist. Completely, Amanda said. He funds it and attends board meetings, but the day-to-day decisions are ours. He said his job was to make sure the money was there and then get out of the way. Sophia looked at the painting, at the raw honesty of someone else's pain transformed into art. That sounds like something his mother would have wanted, she said quietly. It's exactly what she wanted, Amanda confirmed. We have her journals. She was very clear about her vision. The opening of the Margaret Thorne Foundation Gallery was scheduled for a Saturday evening. Sophia told herself she would not think about Marcus being there or not being there. She would focus on the art, on the artists, on the mission. But she could not help scanning the crowd, looking for his face. He was not there. True to his word, he had stayed away. Sophia felt relief and disappointment warring in her chest. She wanted him to see what his mother's legacy had become. She wanted him to know that his attempt at redemption was working, at least in this. But she also was not ready to face him, not ready for the conversation that would inevitably happen if their eyes met across a crowded room. Instead, she focused on the other artists, on their joy at seeing their work hung in a real gallery, on the collectors who stopped to look and ask questions and sometimes buy. This was what mattered. Not her broken heart, but these voices finally being heard. Near the end of the evening, Dr. Price approached with a man Sophia recognized from art magazines, James Morrison, one of the most respected critics in New York. Sophia's stomach clenched with nerves. Ms. Chen, Morrison said, extending his hand, your work is remarkable. I'm planning a piece on this new gallery, and I'd like to feature you prominently if you're willing to be interviewed. About what? Sophia asked cautiously. About being a working-class artist. About what it takes to create while surviving. About why your perspective matters in an art world that usually ignores people like you. People like me? Sophia repeated, the phrase landing with weight. Yes. Morrison looked at her seriously. The art world needs to hear from artists who understand struggle not as aesthetic concept but as lived experience. You're that voice. Will you let me help amplify it? Sophia thought about her mother, about all the Maria Chens who never got their chance, who worked themselves to exhaustion and died with their stories untold. Yes, she said. I'll do the interview. As the gallery emptied and the evening wound down, Sophia stood alone in front of her 3 paintings. They looked good here. Looked like they belonged. She belonged here. Not because Marcus had pulled strings, but because she had talent and had worked hard and had refused to let heartbreak silence her. She did not know that Marcus was watching from his car parked down the block, having promised to stay away but unable to resist seeing the gallery on opening night. He watched Sophia through the window, watched her stand in front of her work, watched her smile at something Dr. Price said. She looked beautiful and strong and completely herself. She looked like she had grown past him, past the pain he had caused, into something larger and more important. Marcus started his car and drove away, leaving her to her triumph. This was not about him anymore. Maybe it never should have been. He had loved her, truly loved her. But love was not enough when it was built on lies. He could spend the rest of his life trying to make amends, building galleries and funding artists and honoring his mother's memory. But he could not undo what he had done to Sophia. He could only hope that someday, in some small way, his actions might balance the scales. Sophia took the subway home that night, tired and happy and still carrying the complicated feelings that came with Marcus's name. When she got to her apartment, Rachel was waiting with champagne and questions. They celebrated until late, talking about the opening, about the interview with Morrison, about how everything was finally coming together. Just before bed, Sophia looked at her phone one more time. No messages from Marcus. No contact at all. He had kept his promise to leave her alone, and she realized, with something like surprise, that she was not entirely relieved. Part of her, a small, stubborn part she did not want to examine too closely, wanted to tell him that the gallery was beautiful, that he had honored his mother's vision, that he had done something good, even if it could not erase what he had done to her. But she did not text him, was not ready for that conversation, was not ready to open a door she had fought so hard to close. Instead, she picked up her mother's book one more time, reading the words that had guided her through the darkest weeks. Art is how we tell each other we are not alone, Maria Chen had written. It is how we say, I have been where you are, and I survived. It is how we offer hope when hope feels impossible. Never stop making art, Sophia. The world needs your voice more than you know. Sophia closed the book and turned off the light, whispering into the darkness, I won't stop, Mama. I promise I won't stop. And as sleep finally claimed her, she dreamed not of Marcus, but of paintings yet to be made, of stories yet to be told, of all the invisible people waiting to be seen. She dreamed of purpose and mission and the slow, steady work of transformation. She dreamed of becoming the artist her mother always believed she could be, the voice that spoke truth even when truth was hard. Outside her window, the city glittered and hummed with 10,000 stories. And somewhere in that vast anonymous sprawl, Marcus Thorne sat alone in his penthouse and wondered if redemption was possible for men who had lied to the people they loved. Wondered if doing good work could ever balance doing bad things. Wondered if Sophia would ever be able to look at him again and see something worth forgiving. The answers to those questions would come, but not tonight. Tonight was for rest and hope, and the knowledge that both of them, in their separate ways, were trying to honor the people they had loved and lost, trying to build something meaningful from the wreckage of their mistakes, trying to transform pain into purpose, one day at a time. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new choices, new opportunities to grow or fail or simply keep going. But tonight, they had survived, they had endured, and that, for now, was enough. Spring came to New York with the kind of gentle warmth that made the city feel almost optimistic. Sophia stood in front of her easel in the small studio she now rented in Brooklyn, a proper space with north-facing windows and room for her canvases to breathe. 6 months had passed since the openings, since the interview with James Morrison had run an art forum and changed everything. 6 months of steady gallery sales, of teaching art classes to kids in her old neighborhood, of finally being able to breathe without calculating the cost of every breath. She was working on a new series, something different from the working-class portraits that had made her name. These paintings were about healing, about women putting themselves back together after heartbreak. Not sad paintings, but hopeful ones, showing the quiet strength it took to survive pain and choose to keep living anyway. The current piece showed a woman's hands mending a torn dress, the thread golden against the dark fabric, transforming damage into something beautiful. Her phone rang. Dr. Eleanor Price. Sophia smiled as she answered, wiping paint from her fingers. I have a proposition, Dr. Price said without preamble. The Margaret Thorne Foundation is hosting their annual gala in 2 months. They want to feature living artists whose work aligns with the foundation's mission. You're at the top of their list. Sophia's first instinct was still to refuse anything connected to Marcus, but she had been working on that. Working on separating the man from the mission, the hurt from the help. The foundation did good work. She had seen it firsthand, had met artists whose lives had been changed by grants and opportunities. Her own pride should not stand in the way of that. Will he be there? Sophia asked. She could say his name now without her voice shaking. He's the founder's son. He'll have to be there. But Sophia, you don't have to decide now. Think about it. Sophia thought about it for 3 days, talked it over with Rachel, with Henry, with the therapist she had started seeing 2 months ago. Everyone said the same thing. This was her decision. No right answer, just what felt true for her. Finally, she called Dr. Price back. I'll do it, she said. But I want to show the new series, the healing paintings, not the pain ones. That's perfect, Dr. Price said warmly. That's exactly right. The weeks leading up to the gala were busy with preparation. Sophia selected 5 paintings, her best work from the new series. She met with the foundation's curators, all of whom were professional and kind and never once mentioned Marcus except in the context of his mother's legacy. They treated Sophia like the artist she had become, not as anyone's ex-girlfriend or charity case. It was exactly what she needed. She bought a new dress for the gala. Not borrowed this time, but hers, paid for with money she had earned from her work. It was deep green, simple, and elegant, the kind of dress that made her feel like herself, only more so. Rachel helped her get ready on the evening of the event, pinning her hair up and lending her the good earrings. "You look beautiful," Rachel said. "And more importantly, you look happy." "I am happy," Sophia realized, surprised by the truth of it. "I'm actually happy." The gala was being held at the Foundation Gallery, the space transformed with flowers and soft lighting and tables covered in white linen. Sophia arrived early to see her paintings hung, to make sure the lighting was right, to center herself before the crowd arrived. She stood in front of the Mending Hands painting and felt a swell of pride. This was hers. This truth, this beauty, this transformation, no one could take it from her. People began to arrive, collectors and artists, gallery owners and critics, all the people who made the New York art world turn. Sophia moved through the crowd with confidence she had earned, discussing her work, accepting compliments without deflecting them, finally able to claim the title she had always wanted. Artist. She was an artist. She had been there for an hour when she felt it, the prickle of awareness at the back of her neck. She turned and there he was, across the room, talking to a group of suited men. Marcus. He looked different, thinner maybe, or just tired. His hair was a little longer than she remembered. He was laughing at something someone said, but his eyes were sad. She knew those eyes, had drawn them 100 times, had loved them once. He looked up as if feeling her gaze, and their eyes met across the crowded gallery. Everything else fell away. The noise, the people, the year of hurt and healing. For a moment it was just them, just Sophia and Marcus, looking at each other with a year's worth of words unsaid. Then someone asked Sophia a question, and the moment broke. She turned away, her heart hammering, and focused on the conversation about her painting technique. But she could feel Marcus's presence in the room like a magnetic pull, could track him by the sound of his voice, could sense when he moved closer. An hour later, she stepped out onto the gallery's small terrace for air. The city spread out below, lights beginning to glow as dusk settled in. She heard the door open behind her and knew without turning who it was. "Your paintings are beautiful," Marcus said quietly. "The new ones. They're about healing." Sophia looked at him then, really looked at him. He was keeping his distance, standing by the door like he might need to leave quickly. His hands were in his pockets and his shoulders were tense. He looked like a man bracing for a blow. "Thank you," she said. "And thank you for the gallery, for all of it. It's exactly what your mother wanted." "I'm trying," he said, "to do what she asked, to honor people who see beauty even when life is hard." "You're succeeding. I've met some of the artists you've helped. Their stories matter." They were talking like polite strangers, and it hurt more than Sophia expected. This man had known her, really known her, or at least she had thought he did. And now they were exchanging pleasantries like they had never mattered to each other at all. "Sophia," Marcus said, his voice suddenly raw, "can we talk? Really talk? I know I don't have the right to ask. I know I hurt you. But there are things I need to say, and I've been holding them for a year, and I just need to say them." Sophia looked at the city, at the sky turning purple and gold, at anything but his face. Part of her wanted to walk away, to protect the peace she had built. But another part, the part that had loved him, wanted to hear what he had to say. "Okay," she said, "talk." Marcus moved a little closer, still keeping distance between them. "I was a coward," he said, "not for hiding who I was, though that was wrong too, but for not telling you sooner. Every day I thought about it. Every time I saw you, I wanted to explain. But I was terrified of losing you." "And you lost me anyway," Sophia said. "I did. Marcus's voice cracked. And I deserve to. But Sophia, I need you to know that everything I told you about my feelings was true. I loved you. I love you still. Not Sophia the artist or Sophia who makes me feel normal. Just Sophia, the woman who sees beauty in broken things and creates art that makes people feel less alone. Sophia felt tears prick her eyes, but she blinked them back. You lied to me for weeks, she said. Let me tell you about my struggles while you were a billionaire. How am I supposed to trust that? You're not, Marcus said simply. I broke that trust, but I'm trying to show you through my actions that I've changed. The foundation, the gallery, stepping back from the company, all of it is me trying to be the man you thought I was, the man I want to be. I don't need you to be anything for me, Sophia said. I'm fine on my own. I know you are. I've watched you build this amazing career. I've read every article, seen every show. You did it yourself. I'm not trying to take credit for that. Then what are you trying to do? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. I'm trying to apologize, he said finally. Really apologize. Not for making a mistake, but for hurting you, for making you doubt yourself, for taking something beautiful and poisoning it with lies. I'm sorry, Sophia. I'm so deeply sorry. Sophia turned to face him fully. His eyes were wet and his jaw was tight, and he looked like a man who had spent a year punishing himself. She thought about all the anger she had carried, all the hurt, all the nights spent wondering if she would ever feel whole again. And she realized something. She had already forgiven him. Somewhere in the process of healing, of transforming her pain into art, of building a life she was proud of, she had let go of the anger. It had been weighing her down, and she had chosen to put it down. I forgive you, she said quietly. Marcus's eyes widened. What? I forgive you. You hurt me, you lied. But you've spent a year trying to make amends. You've honored your mother's legacy. You've helped people. And you've left me alone when I asked. That took strength. Sophia, I don't deserve your forgiveness. Maybe not, but I'm not forgiving you for your sake. I'm forgiving you for mine. Because holding on to anger was making me smaller, and I'm done being small. They stood on the terrace as the city lights came on below them, as the sky darkened to navy blue, as the sounds of the gala filtered through the door. Finally, Marcus said, Can I ask you something? Anything. Do you think we could try again? Not now, not rushing it, but someday. When you're ready. Could you see us trying again? Sophia thought about it. Thought about the man he had been and the man he was becoming. Thought about how love had felt before the lies. How right it had been to be seen by him. Thought about whether she could trust him again. Whether they could build something real on the foundation of everything that had broken. Maybe, she said. But not yet. I'm not ready yet. Marcus nodded, accepting this. That's fair, more than fair. Can I ask one more thing? What? Can we be friends? Can I see your shows and you see what the foundation is doing and we just exist in each other's lives without all the weight? Sophia felt something ease in her chest. Yes, she said. We can try that. They went back inside together, not touching but walking side by side. The gala continued around them and they moved through it separately, talking to different people, inhabiting different worlds. But throughout the evening, Sophia found herself watching Marcus, watching how he talked to the artists, really listening to their stories, treating them with respect and genuine interest, watching how he had stepped back from the spotlight, letting the artists be the stars, watching how he kept glancing at her paintings like they held answers to questions he had not learned to ask yet. At the end of the night, as people were leaving, Marcus found her again. Thank you, he said, for the forgiveness, for the possibility of friendship. It's more than I hoped for. Don't waste it, Sophia said. I won't, I promise. He left and Sophia watched him go, feeling lighter than she had in a year. Forgiveness, she was learning, was not about excusing harm. It was about refusing to let harm define you. She had forgiven Marcus not because he deserved it, but because she deserved peace. Over the next few months, they kept their promise. Sophia would see Marcus at foundation events, and they would talk, carefully at first, and then more easily. He would come to her shows and stand quietly in the back, never making himself the center of attention. She started to see the change in him, the way he had stepped into his mother's values, the way he used his privilege to lift others instead of himself. They met for coffee one afternoon in May, 10 months after the first gala, where everything had broken. Sophia arrived at the small cafe near her studio to find Marcus already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups already ordered. "I remembered," he said, gesturing to the iced coffee in front of her chair. "Iced, even though it's not hot enough outside." She smiled, touched that he had remembered such a small detail. "Thank you." They talked about her upcoming show, about a new program the foundation was launching for art supplies in schools, about everything and nothing. And Sophia realized she was enjoying herself, enjoying his company. The anger was gone, and what remained was this: 2 people who had hurt each other, learning how to be gentle. "I've been in therapy," Marcus said suddenly, "working on why I lied, why I thought hiding was better than trusting. Turns out I have some issues with vulnerability." Sophia laughed despite herself. "You think? Apparently growing up rich and expected to be perfect does a number on you. Who knew?" He smiled, but there was pain underneath. "My therapist says I was trying to control the narrative. If I could be just Mark with you, I could control how you saw me. But real love requires being seen fully, mess and all." "Real love," Sophia repeated. "Is that what we had?" "I think so." Marcus looked at her seriously. "On my side, at least. I loved you, Sophia. I still love you. But I'm working on loving myself too. On being someone worthy of being loved." "You were always worthy," Sophia said. "You just didn't believe it." They finished their coffee and walked through the neighborhood together, past the community garden where they had once volunteered, past the diner where Henry still served terrible coffee and remembered everyone's orders. It felt like tracing the ghost of who they had been, seeing if anything could be salvaged from the ruins. At the corner where they would part ways, Marcus turned to her. "Can I take you to dinner?" Dinner, real date. No pretending, no hiding, just us, trying to see if this could work." Sophia hesitated, her heart and her head at war. Her heart wanted to say yes immediately. Her head reminded her of all the reasons to be careful. "I need to think about it," she said. "Of course, take all the time you need, I'll be here." That night, Sophia called Rachel. "He asked me on a date," she said. "A real one." "And?" Rachel asked. And I don't know what to do. I've forgiven him. I like spending time with him. But what if I'm just setting myself up to get hurt again?" "Soft," Rachel said gently. "That's always the risk. Every time you care about someone, you risk getting hurt. But you're different now, stronger. And so is he. Maybe this time you can build something real." "How do I know he won't lie again?" "You don't. But has he lied to you in the past 10 months?" "No," Sophia admitted. "He's been honest, sometimes painfully honest." "Then maybe that's your answer." Sophia thought about it for 3 more days. Thought about the man Marcus had been and the man he was becoming. Thought about her own growth, her own strength, her own ability to set boundaries and walk away if she needed to. Finally, she texted him. "Yes to dinner. Friday at 7. Somewhere we've never been." He replied immediately, "I know just the place." Friday evening, Sophia put on a simple dress and the earrings her mother had left her, small silver butterflies that caught the light. She met Marcus at a small Italian restaurant in the West Village, a place that was cozy without being pretentious, the kind of neighborhood spot where regulars gathered and strangers were welcomed. Marcus stood when she arrived, pulling out her chair. He was nervous, she could tell. His hands moved restlessly, and he kept adjusting his napkin. It was endearing, seeing him unsure. "Thank you for saying yes," he said. "Thank you for asking honestly," Sophia said. They ordered food and wine, and for the first few minutes there was awkwardness, the weight of everything unspoken pressing down on them. Then Sophia said, "Tell me about the foundation, about what you're working on now." Marcus's face lit up as he talked about the new mentorship program, about pairing established artists with emerging ones, about how they were seeing real results in terms of career development and community building. Sophia told him about her teaching, about the kids in her old neighborhood who were learning to see beauty in everyday things, about how her mother's lessons were living on through her. The conversation flowed more easily after that, the way it had when they first met. They talked about art and legacy and what it meant to honor the people who had loved them. They talked about change and growth and the hard work of becoming better. And underneath it all was the current of attraction, of possibility, of 2 people wondering if they could find their way back to each other. After dinner, they walked through the village, past brownstones and tree-lined streets, the spring air warm and gentle. Marcus reached for her hand tentatively, and Sophia let him take it, their fingers intertwining like they had never stopped fitting together. "I've missed this," Marcus said quietly. "Just walking with you, talking, being." "I've missed it too," Sophia admitted, "more than I wanted to." They stopped at a small park, sitting on a bench as the evening deepened into night. The city moved around them, but they were still held in this moment of maybe, of what if, of second chances waiting to be claimed or rejected. "Sophia," Marcus said, turning to face her, "I need you to know that if we do this again, I will never lie to you, even when the truth is hard, even when I'm scared. I will choose honesty every time. And if I can't trust you, if the fear is too much, then we stop. No pressure, no guilt. We only move forward if it feels right for both of us." Sophia looked at him, at the sincerity in his eyes, at the way a year had changed both of them. She thought about the girl she had been, climbing into the wrong car on a rainy night, desperate and hopeful and so afraid of being hurt. She thought about the woman she was now, successful and strong, and choosing from a place of power rather than need. "I want to try," she said, but slowly. "Building trust takes time." "I have time," Marcus said, "as much time as you need." He leaned forward slowly, giving her room to pull away. She did not pull away. Their lips met in a kiss that was tentative and sweet and full of promise. Not the passion of their first kiss, but something deeper, more grounded, more real. A kiss between two people who had hurt each other and healed and were choosing to try again anyway. Over the next 3 months, they dated carefully. Coffee dates and museum visits, dinners and long walks, learning each other again from the foundation up. Marcus told her about his life, about the pressure of being his father's son, about how his mother's death had broken something in him that he had tried to patch with work and control. Sophia told him about the years after her mother died, about the crushing weight of medical debt and grief, about how art had saved her when she had nothing else. They were honest with each other in ways that scared them both. When Marcus felt overwhelmed, he told her instead of pulling away. When Sophia felt scared of being hurt again, she said it out loud instead of building walls. It was messy and hard and real in a way their first relationship had never been. Rachel approved. Henry approved. Even Dr. Price, who had watched the whole saga unfold, smiled when she saw them at gallery openings together. They were good for each other, she told Sophia. Two people who had grown into themselves and were choosing each other from wholeness rather than need. In August, the foundation announced a major expansion, a second gallery in Chicago, programs in 10 more cities, a significant increase in grant funding. Marcus asked Sophia to be on the artist advisory board to help shape the programs and make sure they stayed true to the mission. She said yes, not as his girlfriend, but as an artist who believed in the work. The expansion gala was scheduled for September, a celebration of the foundation's growth and impact. Sophia was showing 3 paintings, her largest pieces yet, exploring themes of community and collective healing. The night before the gala, Marcus came to her studio to see the work. He stood in front of the paintings for a long time, not speaking, just looking. Finally, he turned to her, his eyes bright with emotion. "These are incredible," he said. "Sophia, you've become the artist my mother dreamed of being, the kind who changes how people see the world." "I'm trying," Sophia said, "to honor her and my mom both, to give voice to people who deserve to be heard." "You're succeeding," Marcus said, "and I'm so proud of you." They stood together in her studio, surrounded by canvases and the smell of paint, and Sophia felt something settle in her chest. This was right. This man, this moment, this life they were building together. It was not perfect. It was real. The gala was spectacular. The new gallery space filled with art and artists, collectors and community members, everyone who had contributed to making the expansion possible. Sophia's paintings were the centerpiece of the exhibition, hung in the main gallery where everyone would see them. She stood with Marcus as guests arrived, greeting people together, partners in this mission that had brought them back together. Midway through the evening, Marcus took the stage to speak about the foundation's growth. He talked about his mother's vision, about the artists they had supported, about the importance of making art accessible to everyone regardless of background or wealth. Then he looked directly at Sophia. "I want to thank someone special tonight," he said. "An artist who has taught me more about courage and integrity and transformation than anyone else. Sophia Chen, could you come up here, please?" Sophia's heart started pounding. This was not part of the program. She made her way to the stage, her legs shaky, while the crowd applauded. Marcus took her hand, holding it gently, his thumb rubbing circles on her palm the way he used to. "A year and a half ago," he said, "I made the worst mistake of my life. I lied to this woman. I hurt her. I broke her trust in ways that should have been unforgivable. But Sophia has a capacity for forgiveness that humbles me. She gave me a second chance, not because I deserved it, but because she deserved peace." The gallery was absolutely silent, everyone listening. "I have spent every day since trying to be worthy of that forgiveness," Marcus continued, "trying to be the man she believed I was even when I was lying about who I was. And tonight, in front of all of you, I want to ask her something." He pulled a small box from his pocket, and Sophia's breath caught. He knelt in front of her, in front of hundreds of people, his eyes never leaving her face. "Sophia Chen, you see beauty in broken things. You transform pain into art. You give voice to the invisible and hope to the hopeless. You made me want to be better, not for you but for myself. And now that I am better, now that I have done the work and learned the lessons and earned the right to ask, I have one question. Will you marry me?" The gallery erupted in applause, but Sophia barely heard it. She was looking at Marcus, at the man who had lied to her and broken her heart, and then spent a year proving he could change. She was thinking about trust rebuilt, about forgiveness earned, about love that was real because it had survived the worst and chosen to try anyway. "Yes," she said, her voice strong and clear. "Yes, I'll marry you." He slid the ring onto her finger, a simple band with a single diamond that caught the light like a promise. Then he stood and kissed her while the crowd cheered and cameras flashed, and her whole life changed again. But this time, for a reason that was true. Later, when the crowd had thinned and they stood together in front of her paintings, Marcus wrapped his arms around her from behind. "I love you," he said. "The real you. The whole you. Every part." "I love you too," Sophia said. "The real you. The one who learned how to be honest even when it was hard." They stayed there for a while, holding each other, looking at the art that Sophia had created from her pain. The paintings showed women healing, communities coming together, beauty being built from broken things. They showed the truth that both Sophia and Marcus had learned, that transformation was possible, that people could change, that love could survive if both people were willing to do the work. The next day, they walked through Central Park hand in hand, planning their future. A small wedding, they decided, just family and close friends. They would live in Sophia's studio for now, the space big enough for both of them, and honest about who they were and where they had come from. They would keep working, Sophia on her art, and Marcus on the foundation, two people committed to the same values and vision. "Do you think our mothers would approve?" Sophia asked as they sat by the lake, watching boats drift across the water. "I think they would love it," Marcus said. "My mother wanted me to find real love. Your mother wanted you to keep creating. We're honoring both of them." "And each other," Sophia added. "We're honoring each other." In October, they got married in the community garden, where they had once pulled weeds side by side. It was a small ceremony, just Rachel and Henry and Dr. Price, and a handful of other people who had supported them through everything. Sophia wore a simple white dress and carried wildflowers. Marcus wore a suit, but no tie, his collar open, his smile wider than she had ever seen it. They wrote their own vows. Marcus promised honesty, even when it was hard. Sophia promised openness, even when she was scared. They promised to keep growing together, to keep choosing each other, to build a life based on truth and shared values and love that was real because it had been tested and survived. After the ceremony, they had a small reception at the diner where they had met so many times. Henry catered with food from the menu, terrible coffee and perfect pancakes and everything that felt like home. They danced to music from a phone speaker and cut a cake that Rachel had made. It was not fancy. It was perfect. That night, in Sophia's studio that was now their studio, they lay in bed and talked about the future, about the foundation's next expansion, about Sophia's next series of paintings, about the life they would build together, about maybe, someday, children they would teach to see beauty in the world. "Tell me about your mother," Marcus said, pulling Sophia close. "The real stories, the ones you don't tell people." Sophia talked about Maria Chen late into the night, about her mother's laugh and her fierce love and her belief that everyone deserved to be seen. Marcus listened and held her, and when she cried, he cried with her, mourning the woman he had never met, but who had shaped the person he loved. In turn, Sophia asked about Margaret Thorne, and Marcus told stories his mother had told him, about her dreams of being an artist, about the paintings she had given up, about the regret she carried and the foundation she created to make sure others would not have to make the same choice. "They're here," Sophia said quietly, "in this work we're doing, in the art and the love and the second chances. They're here with us." Marcus kissed her forehead. "Yes," he said, "they are." A year later, Sophia had her first solo show at a major museum. The exhibition was called Transformations, and it chronicled her journey from struggling waitress to recognized artist, from heartbreak to healing, from pain to purpose. The paintings were raw and beautiful and honest, showing not just the struggle but the survival, not just the breaking, but the rebuilding. Marcus came to the opening and stood in the back, watching Sophia talk to critics and collectors, seeing her shine in the way she was always meant to shine. She caught his eye across the room and smiled, a smile that said, "I did this and I love you, and we made it." He smiled back, his heart full to bursting with pride and love and gratitude for the wrong card that had turned out so right. The museum acquired 3 of her paintings for their permanent collection. The show was written about in national magazines. Sophia was interviewed on NPR about being a working-class artist who had made it without compromising her voice or her values. She used every platform to talk about the importance of supporting artists from all backgrounds, about the need for programs like the Margaret Thorne Foundation, about how art could change lives if people had access to it. 2 years after the wedding, Sophia opened her own art school in East Harlem, a place where kids from working families could learn to draw and paint and create without worrying about the cost. The Margaret Thorne Foundation funded it, and Marcus helped set it up. But the vision was all Sophia. She taught classes herself, passing on her mother's lessons about seeing beauty, about giving voice to the invisible, about using art to say I was here and I mattered. On the wall of the school, she hung 2 portraits. One of Maria Chen in her classroom, surrounded by students, alive in Sophia's memory forever. One of Margaret Thorne in her studio, paintbrush in hand, finally able to create the way she had always dreamed. 2 women who had shaped the people they loved, 2 legacies living on through art and foundation, and the quiet work of making the world more beautiful. Marcus would often visit the school, sitting in on Sophia's classes, watching her teach the way his mother had once taught. He saw Maria in Sophia's patient way of correcting a student's grip on a brush, in her enthusiasm when someone made a breakthrough, in her absolute belief that every child deserved to be an artist if they wanted to be. On their 3rd anniversary, they went back to the community garden and planted a tree together. "For the mothers we loved," Sophia said, "and for the life we're building." They stood with their arms around each other, dirt under their fingernails, the future stretching ahead of them bright and full and real. They had taken the wrong car and the right chance. They had broken and healed. They had learned that love was not about perfection, but about choosing each other every day with honesty and patience and the willingness to grow. And as the sun set over the city they both loved, Sophia thought about the girl she had been, desperate and struggling and so afraid she did not matter. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, to this man and this life and this purpose. And she understood finally what her mother had been trying to teach her all along. That survival was not the end of the story. That transformation was always possible. That pain could be alchemy if you were brave enough to face it. That art gave voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. That love, Real love was built on truth and trust, and the courage to keep trying even after you had failed. Sophia took Marcus's hand, and they walked home together through the streets of their city. Two people who had found each other in the wrong car at exactly the right time. Two people who had learned that sometimes the worst mistakes led to the best transformations. Two people who had chosen to keep choosing each other every day for the rest of their lives. Behind them, in the garden, the tree they planted stood small and fragile against the evening sky. But it would grow, fed by care and time and patience, just like their love, just like the legacy they were building together, just like every good thing that started broken and chose to heal. The city hummed around them, full of stories and struggles and people trying to survive, and in their small corner of it all, Sophia and Marcus had built something that mattered. Not perfect, not easy, but real and true, and worth everything it had cost to find. They had taken the wrong car. They had found the right love. And in the end, that made all the difference.